Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you're watching in the world, welcome back to the F1 Esports Challengers. Here we go to PC for rounds 3 and 4 of the PC side of Challengers, which of course takes us first to Zandvoort and then over to Spielberg. My name is Kieran McGinley, and of course joining me in the commentary box is one Mr. Justin Sutton. Justin, we've already had two versions of these two races. Both have been absolutely brilliant. All can be the same for the third time around, surely.
Yeah, we're 4 for 4 when it comes to the races in Event 2, which is what we've had this week. And I'm certainly expecting more of the same from the PC guys. We've got some quotes from the drivers that we'll be seeing featured in today's races. And it's going to be a good one. I'm going to be really sad, actually, to see these tracks go.
Oh, absolutely. They've been bringing us some fantastic races for the past couple of days, and no doubt they will give us some great opportunities to see even more overtaking. And of course, we first head to Zandvoort. Already twice today, over this week, has given us some fantastic races for us to watch, for us to unfold, and for us to call over, Justin.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I loved that we got some precipitation yesterday as well, too. Yeah, it's just made things that little bit more interesting. It's always nice to see a little bit of rain, changing conditions as well. Seeing that crossover point is always fantastic. So really glad that we got to see a little bit of that before we wrap things up here today on the PC side.
Yeah, and that's just wrapping things up for Event 2, of course.
That's
Two
right.
races will be happening tonight, so don't go anywhere after the first one has ended. I can promise you Austria is high octane at the best of times, let alone if you throw in some rain there, which we haven't seen so far over the past two series. We have seen rain in qualifying Austria, but
Yes.
not in the race, which has given us that short, sharp action that we've been craving in this series so far. I mean, both of those races around 20 minutes going into it, so it really is short and sharp.
Yeah, it was very, very quick. The race time, it was just about the fastest I've ever seen for a 25% distance race, what with the conditions that we had and the skill level of these drivers. It's unsurprising that they were able to wrap up that 18 laps pretty dang quickly. So, and yeah, again, we're certainly expecting the same from the PC guys, just as hardworking as any other platform.
Absolutely, and of course we'll take you through the standings very, very shortly, but I can tell you it is very close at the top of the table and still very much all to play for. In fact, you can see them there. It's Alessio De Capua who leads the way on 35 points, Atta Kaupanen in second place with Sven Zierner in third place, Nicolas Matteo in fourth, Kevin Balash in fifth, Ruben Vallejo in sixth place, Josh Idaho in seventh, Sven Nurla in eighth, Patrick Sipos in ninth, and Thomas Amaro rounds off that top 10 to take you through the rest of the point scores, or the 16 so far. And there you can see three drivers yet to score a point so far. That's Pablo Hoglar, Oleg Nabadovsky, and Jake Wills, who will be looking to try and get themselves on the points this evening. Jan Fehler, Jeffrey Rietfeld, and Benta Sabokonyi, the last of the point scorers, 13 point scorers so far this season. And what has been very, very apparent, Justin, is that whenever we go to these races, there's a different race winner for each race all the way through this series so far. So it's really getting that unpredictable element of who will actually win this race.
It was looking like that was going to change yesterday too, wasn't it? We thought for sure that we were going to have a second, or a winner for the second time. Somebody picking up their second win of the season, but it didn't end up happening that way, and it continues to be completely confusing. It's got to be, it's exciting, but it's also a bit daunting for the people at home, because who's going to win? I have no idea. They don't know. I don't think the drivers know either.
Well, it's just a mystery to everybody. That's why we love the racing, because you don't know who's going to win. You don't know. You can't tell. You can't put a bet on it. So it's completely open. Anybody can win if you're on the pace, and if you get that chance of going up there, then you will certainly try to take it. But we have a look at the Zandvoort track then. 4.259 kilometers takes us around 14 turns of a heavily banked track. Two DRS zones and plenty of detection to give you an edge in the top speed on what has been a narrow track. And now let's take you on a super lap of this track.
Hi, my name is Max Verstappen, driving for Aston Martin Rebel Racing, and here I am to take you around the lap at the Zandvoort circuit. It's an old school circuit. Let's check it out. Straight away what you can see is the first corner. You can brake very late. The corner is a bit cambered, but of course also easy to lock an inside wheel. On the exit you try to run as wide as you can. Then turn 2, all about positioning yourself off. Turn 3, which is now massively cambered, so a lot more speed compared to before. Again, use all the road on the exit. And then this is basically all flat out, but with a great scenery. And then you come to the corner which is the most fun. It's a very fast corner in F1. And again, here you set yourself up, very fast right-hander, use all the track available. And again, try to brake on the left to open up this corner on the exit. Always a bit of oversteer. And going into this one, again, you use the whole road on the entry. And again, on the exit, you try to maximize as much as you can. A lot of fans on the left and the right. Late braking into this one. Right-hander, you sacrifice a bit to open it up for the left-hander. Again, tricky corner, and the exit a bit of oversteer. And then this is a very fast corner again in F1. It's all about hitting the apex well and go early on throttle. And then, of course, the last corner massively banked, and you open the DRS, and that's a lap of Zandvoort.
And there you go. There was really no one else we could have thrown around the circuit of Zandvoort there to take us round a lap other than Max Verstappen. And he did say in that lap that the banking and the actual geometry of the circuit there into some of these corners helps to carry the speed through. It's already a very narrow circuit. We've already seen how tough it is to overtake round here, but we've also seen some of the bravery of these drivers to make a move happen anyway.
Yeah, exactly. They have to force the issue. They have to be smart about it. They have to maybe hold somebody up in one corner and then attack in the next corner just to get them out of DRS. We've seen that kind of stuff going on. It's really, really challenging out there, but it means the quality of the overtakes and battles that we're seeing on track is just next level.
I mean, it's challenging for the challengers, aptly named, as you see.
There you go.
So, absolutely. So it is a narrow track. It's a fast-flowing circuit as well. Plenty of high-speed corners. So setup is crucial around here. And what, for these challengers, they have to put up with as well is not only trying to be the fastest driver out there, but to find that ideal setup, one that gives them the speed, but also brings out the best performance in the tyres possible.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, there's so many things to think about, so many variables that these guys have to contend with, and it's an incredible task, and it's amazing at their ages because they are very, very young. I'm an old man, but they are very young and handling it beautifully. Again, I keep saying it, but every year the standard is just raised, and this year has been the best so far. That's not to slight the guys that came before, the people that came before, but rather, you know, it's just incredible to see where we are now.
Absolutely, and we bring you now into qualifying. It's a pretty dull day out there in Zandvoort for qualifying. Grey skies all around. We have seen this before in qualifying here at Zandvoort, and it's just about managed to hold off the rain. But I can tell you right now, the amount of people out there doesn't look encouraging for later on in this session. But we'll keep our fingers crossed that it stays dry for the rest of the session as we watch Patrick Sipos here make his way now through turn 3 and on the exit there, very much trying to get the power down. Little bit of a kick of oversteer as well on the exit of turn 3 as we bring you through turns 4, 5 and 6. Flick the car in towards turn 7. It's a long right-hander. Use the curb on the exit there. Try not to hit that curb on the inside as you head towards turn 8. It can unsettle the car if you haven't set the car up right. Through turn 9, roll the car in and then in towards turn 10, using as much of that track as possible. You really want to try and grab the apex for turn 10 as you now make your way in towards that second DRS zone on the track, over the crest and down towards turn 11. Sacrifice that exit of 11 so that you get the perfect entry in towards turn 12. A short run then towards turn 13. Try and get the power down without spinning up those wheels through 13, the penultimate corner, and then through the heavily banked turn 14. Full throttle all the way now towards that start-finish line, and Sipos then will be one of the first to set a lap time on the board. And let's see what it is. It's already into the 107s, 107.9 from Patrick Sipos. Wow, that's a marker and a half.
That is wild. I think it was the second runs that we started to see the 107s come in on the Xbox and PS4 side. So, and you can see right away, we've got 4 more times coming on the board, and nobody's even really close to. There we go. De Capua, the current championship leader, becomes the first person to really even get a sniff of that time. But wow, what a benchmark from Patrick there. That's incredible.
And bear in mind, Patrick Sipos right now 9th place in this series, 10 points so far, on level with points with Sven Nurler, who's in 8th, and obviously trying to get himself up towards the top of the order, get that momentum on his side early. And that's on a track that it is evolving lap by lap as the drivers put the rubber down. The track is always improving as there is one of the replacements here. We should probably tell you about the reserves that have stepped in as replacements. We've got Norbert Jakob, who has stepped in for Oleg Napadovsky. We've got Iker Baena, who we're watching right now. He's in for Sven Zürner, and Calvin Klein, who is in for Jeffrey Rietveld. So we'll bring you those drivers and see what they're like out there as the session progresses. But there is Iker Baena as he makes his way through turn 13, onwards now towards turn 14. Always daunting when you make your debut, no less as a reserve driver, but as your first real attack of the wheel. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Yeah, last driver out of the pits as well to get onto the circuit, and it looks like he's going to be the last one to attempt a lap anyway. We can see a few drivers weren't able to actually string a lap together without picking up any penalties or having to back off or anything like that. We can see 12 times on the board. Baena is out there at the moment, and Kauppinen, who we're on board with now in the Haas, is coming towards the end of the lap. I'd say this is right around the halfway point thereabouts. So we'll see very shortly where those two are going to be slotting in. But Matteo and Vallejo also on their outlap. So a few cars still out on track while the majority of the drivers are in the pits preparing for their second runs.
Here is Atte Kalben, and then as he makes his way through turn 13 onwards, then he goes towards turn 14, of course, fourth all the way through the heavily banked final corner, and onwards now towards the start-finish line. Keep the wheel as straight as possible. 108.7 from Kalpen there, puts him into 12th place, but that's not representative of what we've seen from him so far. Second in the series so far. We're expecting him to be further up the order, so not a representative lap time. I'm going to put my neck on the line and say that.
Yeah, I think that's fairly safe to say. Kauppinen hasn't won a race yet, but rather currently sitting second in the standings after one podium finish and a fourth place as well at Vietnam and China, respectively. So that's how he was able to accumulate the 30 points that is currently seeing him sitting in second position. But here's Patrick Sipos again, who had that incredible time. Again, the only person we've seen all week to dip into the 107s on the opening run. And also, I just want to reiterate, I don't think I've mentioned this week. I mentioned it last time for Event 1, but there are minor differences between platforms and stuff like that. So just because you see a pace difference from one platform to another doesn't necessarily mean that there's a skill difference between the drivers. Again, once we get all these guys on the same platform together, we find they are pretty much identical when it comes to pace.
Oh, it's proven time and time again, hasn't it? And if you're, of course, unfamiliar with the Challengers format, well, it's short qualifying, 18 minutes, which then decides the order for the race, which is 25% around Zandvoort. And then, straight after that, we go into one-shot qualifying for the Austrian Grand Prix to decide the order. And, of course, then we go into a 25% race. And it's a bit of a mix-up with the qualifying. They get plenty of chances, about 2 or 3 at least, chances to get themselves up the order and try to set a valid lap time as well. That's a huge issue for drivers as well, trying to get as much out of the track limits as possible without invalidating your lap time is going to be essential. At Austria, though, they've only got the one shot to have it. If they invalidate their lap time, that's it. They're not starting high up the grid. We're riding aboard then with Nicolas Matteo as he makes his way towards that start-finish line, and he sets a lap time which is good enough for the third row of the grid.
Yeah, that's a competitive time. Not the, there's more rubber on the track compared to 5 minutes ago when a lot of these times were being set. So it's worth bearing that in mind. He's a couple of thousandths off of Thomas Amoros in 5th position. But lots of cars out on track at the moment. Having a look at Pablo Hoglar, one of the AlphaTauri cars. Again, these guys aren't affiliated with the teams that they're representing or that they're driving for in this series. That's just the cars that they're driving. It doesn't have any sort of bearing. There's no teammates or anything like that. They haven't signed any sort of contracts. They're not being paid. Not yet anyway, but that's what they're looking to change.
Yes, as they're just in the car. That means they don't have teammates either. They are just free-for-all. They're there for themselves. There's no team orders, so you'll be very, very glad to hear that. Jan Fehler then, 2/10, just off 2/10 of the race leader. But how about that? Ruben Vallejo, 4,000ths of a second. Slower than Patrick Sipos. Only the second driver so far into those 107s as Jan Fehler now comes back into the pit lane. 4th row of the grid for him so far in this session.
Still lots of cars on track, as you can see from the track map, or as you could see from the track map. Of course, it went away the moment I brought it up. Sabakon Yu in the Renault. He's going well, and Kauppinen here is definitely going to be looking for a more representative time. I think you touched on that, but not really representative from him. We're expecting him to move up quite a bit.
I mean, it's bizarre saying that. A 108.7 is not representative. I'd be thrilled. I'll tell you that right now. But Kauppinen crosses the line and makes his way now down towards turn 1, braking at that 15-meter board. Very late braking in towards turn 1, but of course the cars can handle them these days with the amount of brake pressure that goes into them, the amount of aerodynamics that can stop the car as well. In towards turn 3, you can see you're downhill as you're braking. Very easy to snatch a brake there, but you can use the camber of turn 3, the cambers towards the apex, to help you recover if you do have a little bit of a lockup. Then through turn 7, look at that. Snapping the wheel right to try and steer the car in, literally flicking it into the corner. Same again for turn 8. Watch the curve on the right-hand side. It can really upset the car if you've not got the suspension set up at all right. Through turn 9 and then onto the entrance in towards turn 10. Snapping up the apex there is really important. And gradual power down. Bit of oversteer from Kauppinen there. Well held, though, as he makes way over the crest, down towards turn 11, again through that curb on towards turn 12. You really want to try and get the entrance into 12 spot on, because the short run towards turn 13, there's not really a lot of slowing down to be done here. Through 13, now through 14, full throttle all the way here for Kauppinen. Currently P16 with a 108.7. What's this lap time going to be from him? It's a 108.2. It puts him now up into 11th place.
That's a much better time, but still a little bit lower than what I would have expected. Again, that's what we've seen this week so far on the PS4 and the Xbox side. We saw people slotting into positions in qualifying and in the race where we didn't necessarily expect them, whether that's somebody lower down in the championship getting really high up, or whether that's somebody really high up in the championship having a difficult day. And that's what we've seen for the first 2 days, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised to see that for the PC side as well for the final day of event 2 out of 5.
Yes, absolutely, and we should probably try and check in with the drivers who are currently sort of those reserve drivers right now. And of course, being a reserve now is you put in a lot of time for these 2 circuits, but you're coming up against some really quick drivers out there, and you want to make your mark for the short time that you are here.
Exactly right. Currently running 13th, 15th, and 16th at the moment are those reserves. So running at the back. But again, these aren't the final runs. They could be holding stuff back. They could have just been getting a time on the board, which you do want to do. You want to make sure that you just have a time, a representative time on the board. But De Capua, again, current championship leader for the PC side, starting another hot lap. This is probably his penultimate attempt.
Yes, and he'll be hoping that he can get even more time on the board. I mean, the entire field right now is separated by just about 0.6 of a second, so it's mightily close. Once again, we've seen that qualifying is so close between the 16 drivers here. Any error you make is going to be punished, as De Capua there getting slightly oversteery on the curb, exiting turn 7. So easy to make a mistake like that, and those hundredths of a second, maybe even a tenth of a second that you do lose could be the difference between pole position and finding yourself well down in the midfield. I mean, let's take a look at where a tenth of a second gets you from first place. It gets you P6. So that's the margin of error we're talking about here.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, in some of these positions, that is very close to that car that was moving over to the right-hand side. But again, thankfully, no issues there. But yeah, in some of these cases, it's thousandths of a second that could be worth multiple positions. Look at the gap between second and fourth as De Capua goes fastest of all. That is very impressive. That's a nice time from him. We'll see if anybody can beat it.
Do you remember that time when I said he got slightly wide on the exit of turn 7? I might cost him a tenth. Well, bin that off. 107.8 then from De Capua is the fastest time so far. Nicolas Matteo, meanwhile, did set a 107.9, and that put him now onto the front row of the grid. There is Kevin Balash then as he makes his way in through turn 10. Over the crest, he will go through turn 11. Meanwhile, there is Josh Idawu now making his way through the very, very fast turn 7, then through turn 8 and 9 as he now makes his way towards turn 10. And I mean, you've got a keen eye on Josh, Justin. You know how quick he can be.
Yeah, when I commentated on him a lot back in the day was when he was driving on Xbox. So he's changed platforms since then, and just taking a slightly different approach to things. But he's always been a bit of a rising star. He used to go by the name Surprise with a Z. For the last S is a Z, and yeah, just really, really well known as Sabokonyi, a 107.779. That is a very quick time, and Idowu can't actually better it. He is into the 107.7s. Very, very quick times we're seeing now, but only good enough for second position.
I mean, we've still got less than 4 minutes to go for the likes of Idaho there. He's got another chance, really. If he can get his way back to the pit lane, he has one more chance to get himself up the order. I mean, I say up the order, but it's a 107.792. I mean, that's pretty much up the order.
It's a short trip, yeah.
Find. I mean, I'm looking at his sector times. He's gone purple through Sector 2 and Sector 3, so he's losing time in Sector 1. That's it. If he can clean up Sector 1, this is a potential pole position for him.
Yeah, it really is. Saboconi, though, I mean, that is really surprising, I have to say, especially considering he's coming into this with, I believe it was 2 championship points. Yeah, 2 championship points for Saboconi, and he's got the fastest time by a pretty large margin on the rest of the field. Again, it's pretty close between him and Josh, but yeah, it's just under a tenth down to De Capua, and then that really starts to extend as they get further and further down. You can see it's 4 tenths down to Pablo Hoglar in 10th position. That's one of the bigger gaps we've seen in qualifying so far in this Challengers season.
Yes, as we see now, Thomas Amaro making his way in towards the pit lane. He's got just over 2 minutes and 40 seconds. He should be able to get that car turned around easily to get himself onto another lap. There is Atte Kalpanen then making his way in towards the pit lane. I mean, we're looking at sort of 3-4 tenths off at the moment for Kalpanen, and that's 12th place. Such a very, very small margin of error. There is Patrick Sipos, who is now back out onto track. He had a provisional pole position just a couple of minutes ago with that 107.9, but he looks on form right now. The track has been evolving. You can see there's a little bit of a break in the clouds up above, just a slight bit, so it can help with the tyres if you can get them in the right zone. But of course, that track evolution is going to be so important. Patrick Sipos here, could he be on for a provisional pole? We're about to find out, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. Again, set that very early time with that 107 right at the beginning of the session. Hugely impressive on a green circuit, essentially. So really shocking to see. And again, you know, somebody who's not in the top 5 or even the top 6 heading, or excuse me, is he actually? No, he's not. He's not coming into this race. So again, we're seeing quite the shakeup all week long.
We are indeed, but at the moment, Saboconi leads the way then. Josh Idaho in 2nd place, and Alessio De Capua is in 3rd. Nicolas Matteo in 4th. Patrick Sipos in 5th. Ruben Vallejo in 6th. Kevin Balash in 7th. Thomas Amaro in 8th. Jan Fader in 9th, and Pablo Hoglar rounding out the top 10. And this is an important race as well for Pablo Hoglar. He hasn't scored any points so far. He'll be really keen to, you know, get into the top 10, have a good chance of scoring points. But here's where the balance comes into it. Top 10 have to start on the quickest tyre they've qualified on. If you're outside the top 10, you get a fresh set of tyres. We've seen people outside the top 10 before thinking they have an advantage, only for the rain to come on and literally rain on their parade.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, we've seen 11th to 3rd already, so it's certainly possible, but you know, you got to make sure that the weather is going to play into the hands of your strategy, and you got to really pay attention and be on the ball for every aspect of this race when it comes to when you pit, the tires you pick, how you run in qualifying, when you go out in qualifying, how you set up the car, all of that kind of stuff. But let's see what Patrick Sipos is able to do in his Renault.
I think, yeah, he went for 2 outlaps there, did Sipos there. So
yeah,
he's going again, going through turn 1 and onwards now towards turns 2 and 3, just to try and run with the least amount of fuel he can possibly have in the car. Make it as light as possible. Those will make the differences heading towards the checkered flag now. Only a handful of seconds left on the clock before we see the expiration of the timer. But we ride on board with Sipos now flying through the right-hander there, literally just trying to hang on for dear life, and that car looks insanely just hunkered down to the ground. It looks absolutely a pleasure to drive as he now makes his way through turn 10, grabbing the apex there, and then onwards he will go. A little bit of oversteer out of turn 10 there as he makes his way over the crest and towards turns 11 and 12, making his way through there. Again, sacrificing the exit of 11 to make sure he gets the entrance in towards turn 12. It's much more important. Heading our way now in towards turn 13, down a couple of gears and then back up the gears to reduce the wheel spin. Now build up the speed through the banked corner. Thomas Amaro goes up to 9th place now inside of the top 10. Here comes Patrick Sipos across the line, goes even quicker. 107.754. It's enough for now for a provisional pole position, but can anybody else behind Benson Saboconi, Josh Idaho, Alessio Di Capua, can they all make a difference? Can they all find that time somewhere out there? As we see now, Josh Idawu making his way over the crest towards turn 11. It's a good-looking lap time from Sipos, Bentasavo Konyi, because he's got now 107.701. He's now taken provisional pole. Di Capua sets exactly the same time, but because he set it second, he will start behind Savo Konyi. So it's up to Josh Idawu now. Can he be the man that grabs provisional pole position off the lot of them? Yes, he can. 107.691. Josh Idawu will be starting on pole position. Absolutely fantastic. Kevin Balash is still out there. So too is Jan Fehler. Fehler comes back into the pit lane, so it's only just Kevin Balash out there. We will await to see if he's going to complete his lap. 107.9 so far is enough for 6th place. There he is, though, making his way in towards turn 11. That looks like to me he's completely backed out of that lap time. So Josh Idawu, 107.6. It is pole position for Idawu. What a lap.
Incredible. 11. I'm shocked right now. I cannot believe he pulled that out. I cannot believe how close the top 3 are, and I can't believe that Sabakoni and Di Capua set the exact same time. This is, I'm actually struggling with the words to describe what we're seeing right now. That was fantastic. 11,000, 3 drivers for pole. Oh, that's wonderful.
And that is going to be a great insight into what this race is going to be like. So Josh Idawu then starts this race on pole position as Bentasabo Konyi in 2nd place. Di Capua rounds out the top 3. Sipos then is in 4th, Matteo in 5th, Balash in 6th with Vallejo in 7th, Nerla in 8th, Amaro 9th, and Hoglar rounds out the top 10. It's Jan Fehler in 11th place there. Klein is in 12th, Kalpanen 13th, Wills in 14th, Baena in 15th, and Jakob is rounding out the top 16. All 16 drivers separated by just under 0.7 of a second. Mightily quick lap times out there. 2 drivers thought, you know what, we're going to set exactly the same time. Savo Konyi and Alessio Di Capua. And if you're unfamiliar with the rules of setting the exact same lap time, the driver that sets the lap time first is the one that starts ahead. So Savo Konyi set the lap time first. Di Capua set it second. Therefore, Savo Konyi will start ahead. But well, I'll tell you what, if qualifying is as close as that, I can't wait for this race. Watch out for those starting outside the top 10. Jan Fehler is in prime position for that alternate strategy in P11. Bright skies, dry weather, looking good so far.
Yep, it's looking good, especially if you're the guys starting at the front, because of course that was a dry qualifying session, so they have that confidence. They know that they're good in the conditions that are going to be present for the race, so they're going to be feeling pretty good. I imagine Sabakoni and Di Capua especially are going to be thinking they can bring the fight to Idawu, because that is such a small gap. Over 18 laps of racing, they're going to be inseparable, I would imagine.
Well, we're about to find out how it's all going to play out as we head towards the Dutch Grand Prix here in the Netherlands for Zandvoort. We're moments away from the race start as we count up now towards those 5 red lights. We're racing in Zandvoort. One of the starts like it's a good start then from Idawu. It's a great start as well from Bentasabo Konyi. Idawu has to go defensive. Sabo Konyi has got the inside line. Idawu here will try and get the outside line, which he does. He gets the better traction, holds on to the lead of the race so far, as that's Matteo and Sipos going side by side in the background as we now pile our way now in towards turn 3. Cold tyres, of course. Watch out for those rear tyres as we now fight our way in through turns 4, 5 and 6 before we head towards turn 7. We're going too wide in the background there. I think that's Hoglar and Fehler going side by side. That's a battle for the last points paying position so far. Good start from Di Capua. He's up to 3rd place. Matteo is up to 4th now after that start. Vallejo is in 6th place, of course. Sipos in 5th. Not the best start in the world for him, but he's still got plenty of this race to go. Clean start from all involved.
Yeah, exactly right. Matteo and Patrick Sipos switching positions. The McLaren moving up into 4th on the opening lap here. But as you said, plenty of opportunities to change that. Idawu is probably, I would imagine, going to try and build the gap as much as he can. And he is, in fact, doing that. Look at that. He's already got it up to 0.6 of a second. That is impressive.
Is impressive indeed. I think there's a moment in the background there. One of the Red Bulls, I think that was involved. Calvin Klein, I think that was, who now finds himself 2 seconds down. So we've got a bunch of cars coming into the pits as well. Wills, I think, is in the pits. So too is Baena. So not a great start for any of those. And, we see there, I think Calvin's actually carried on in this race. So he clearly thinks he's not damaged enough to warrant a pit stop. But, yeah, at least 2 drivers in the pits after that one.
Yeah, not ideal. Again, with the 25% distance race, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's certainly not going to help. It's going to be nearly impossible to try and convert that into a race win or even a podium, especially with how close all of these drivers are. But it's not the end. They got to keep going. They got to keep pushing, see if they can pick up some points. Damage limitation.
Yeah, and Wills has gone on to a set of medium tyres, and I think Baena has gone on to a set of hard. So Baena is definitely looking to try and go to the end of this race, and Wills will be looking to try and see if those medium tyres have a little bit more pace. He might fade away on the pace towards the end of the race, but he's hoping that that early pace will help him get up the field there. But there you can see Idawu leading the way. We've got a replay coming up, so this is probably what happened earlier on. So we're watching Jan Fehler here. Oh my goodness, Wills there. I think he missed his braking point going in towards turn 11, had to take evasive action, missed the corner, and I don't think there was anything Baena, Jakob or Calvin Klein could do about that one. We're back with the live action then. So Idawu leads the race then. Ventus Saboconi in second place, but importantly there, Idawu leads by 1.2 seconds. So at the moment, he's breaking that DRS. So that's going to be encouraging for him.
Ooh, Kevin Balash going very deep through that banked left-hander, and just an open invitation to Thomas Amoros. Of course, DRS activated now. We are at the start of lap 3, so the DRS will become available to the drivers. And when you see a driver struggling like that ahead of you, it really is just writing them a letter and saying, "Dear sir or madam, please go ahead and take my position."
It's that carrot dangling right in front of you, and it's so tempting to try and take it away. But of course, you've got to make sure it's the right move at the right time. Saboconi then is in second place, but he's got a little bit of this train behind him right now. And with Idawu just inching away lap by lap, the gap's now up to 1.4 seconds. Saboconi now has to deal with the fact that the rest of the drivers behind him, all the way down to Kalpanen, will have DRS on him going down the start-finish straight. So this gaggle of cars behind him isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I think that's Amaro coming into the pits then very early on in this race, maybe trying to find some sort of undercut down there. We're not expecting drivers in the pits for at least another 3, 4, maybe even 5 laps in this race. So very early call from Amaro.
Yeah, that's a bit surprising, if I'm honest, but I think he's trying something different. I think he feels that maybe he could lap faster if he was just outside of the traffic. And you have to do that kind of stuff when you do find yourself in a long line of cars where everybody's just picking up DRS and slipstream, because again, overtaking options are limited here at Zandvoort. So if you feel like you are faster than the cars ahead, you got to try something different when it comes to the strategy, whether that's staying out longer or coming in earlier. And he's made that decision. And again, we've touched on this before, but maybe not this week. These guys are their own race engineers. They have to figure this stuff out while they're going wheel to wheel at a couple 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's those split-second decisions as well in terms of strategy too that can make or break your race. And Amaro clearly feels that he's got to try something different to get out of this dirty air and try something different. I mean, if he tries something different and it works, fantastic. If he tries something different and it doesn't work, well, at least he tried something. It's that sort of mentality for him. Lap number 5, and here we go. Patrick Sipos looking around the outside of Nicolas Matteo as we make our way in through turn 1, and Sipos is still there on the outside, has to take to the curb, and Matteo just about gives him enough room round the outside of turn 2, and Matteo just about does enough there. He was very defensive, making sure that Sipos didn't grab the inside line for turn 3 there. Matteo absolutely slamming that door shut.
And exhale. Holy cow, that was right on the limit for Nicolas Matteo and Patrick Sipos, but the McLaren driver, Nicolas Matteo, really closing the door in the best possible way. I think that was, firm but fair. But holy cow, that was probably a scary moment for Patrick Sipos, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of trying to just hold on there, and a little bit gut-wrenching when he saw that door eventually close, but he did get the car stopped in time, so all's well that ends well, and Sipos has a front wing to fight again. He's got to be careful though, because Vallejo is right behind him, and we know in this season that Vallejo is no slouch. He's currently in that 6th place spot in the series, and of course the top 6 are the drivers that make it through to the next part of the series. So we've got some cars coming in now. We've got Sabo Konyi coming in. Oh, that's so close from Nerla there. He almost ran into the back of them, but he does get a 5-second penalty, and that's Sipos, who actually does now tap the back of Matteo. They're going through turn 1. Slight loss of the back end there, where the rear end over rotates in a scenario like that. able to pick up the car again and keep going. Sabakoni, Kevin Balash and Sven Nurle all into the pits. They're going on to a set of medium tyres, but Nurle will have to serve that 5-second stop and go penalty. Now, that will be served at his next pit stop, but if he doesn't make a pit stop again, it'll simply be added to the end of his race time. So he's got that 5 seconds looming over him towards the end of the race.
Exactly right, and it's really frustrating too, because now he's going to be driving thinking about that, at least in the back of his mind this entire time, and that's going to be really, really frustrating. Everybody in the top 6 still on the soft tires that they started the race on, all the way down to Pablo Hoglar. Jan Fehler, the highest running of the medium runners as it stands right now.
Yes, as he's trying to make his way up the field. And of course, we now enter on towards lap 6, which is soon to be, I believe, lap number 7, as Idaho leads the way. Then 1.5 seconds is the gap between himself and De Capua. But of course, we've still got drivers yet to pit in. Matteo comes in. I think that's also Vallejo coming in. So too is Pablo Hoglar, who's looking to score his first point of the series. We now are at 3rd race distance. Here comes Calvin Klein then, as he makes his way down towards turn 1, but not quite close enough to the back of Norbert Jakob here. 2 out of the 3 reserve drivers battling away as they now make their way through turn 2 and onwards towards the heavily banked turn 3.
Getting some nice camera time though. That's always nice when you can show up and get featured on the screen. So yeah, he's Calvin is running behind though his other rookie friend. Having a look though at Kevin Balash, who is just behind Nicholas Matteo actually. So Matteo came out of pits just ahead, but this is quite the gaggle of cars we've got here.
I mean, you see there in the background, Nurle and Amaro battling away, hammer and tongue. Yeah. Nurle just about holds on to that one. Amaro really is on a charge, as Nurle has just come out of the pit lane there on fresh medium tyres, and he was able to, I think he was able to just about hold on to that position, but they were going side by side through 4, 5 and 6, possibly part of the narrowest track on this circuit. As yeah, fantastic battling between the two of them, managing to keep it clean. As Idaho now comes into the pit lane, so does De Capua, so too does Patrick Sipos. So Jan Fehler will now inherit the lead as the leader on the medium tyres, of course. And that's all the way down to Calvin Klein there, who will now inherit 3rd place. Norbert Jakob, sorry, is the last of the medium runners who are yet to pit. Here comes the Red Bull then of Ruben Vallejo down the inside of Kevin Balash. He's still got that inside line. Will he be able to hold on there? We've got cars emerging from the pit lane. We've got 2 cars going side by side here. Where are you going to pick this battle? Are you going to pick both of them at the same time? Matteo gets ahead of Patrick Sipos there, I believe. Kevin Balash and Ruben Vallejo battling away. Hammer and song there. Great battle between the two of them going in towards turn 1. Vallejo wanted to get that move done. Kevin Balash able to hold on.
Really impressive battling from both groups of drivers on that one. Once again, though, Nicholas Matteo shutting the door into that left-hander. That seems to be a bit of a trait for him at turn 3, just closing the door on that Renault behind him. But it's worked out a couple of times, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I have to say, by the way, Jan Fehler doing a fantastic job on those mediums. You can see the gap that he has to the other medium runners. He wasn't that far behind the leaders when they came into the pits either. So Jan Fehler is definitely one to watch, I think, especially once he gets onto those softs.
Yes, of course, he started in 11th place, and we did say that's always a position to watch out for starting in qualifying, especially with dry quali and a dry race. It's always that position to be watching, because that's the first driver that could really run an alternate strategy. And yeah, 3.7 seconds ahead of Atte Kauppinen at the moment. So looking good so far, but of course, there's still plenty of this race to go. Just over halfway to go. We've got 10 laps to go, 9 and a bit if you're picky. It's Jan Fehler who leads at the moment. Atte Kauppinen in 2nd place, Calvin Klein in 3rd, Norbert Jakob in 4th. Top 4 still have to make their mandatory pit stop. It's Josh Idaho in 5th, Sabakoni in 6th, De Capua 7th, Matteo 8th, Sipos 9th, and Balash rounding out the top 10 for now.
Wonderful, wonderful racing that we're seeing so far here in the Netherlands for the final time this week on the PC side. Great races on the PS4 and the Xbox platforms. PC delivering as well. We haven't quite had a up the middle double overtake into turn 1 just yet, but I don't know, all of this action is just about making up for that.
I still like the optimism, yet I still love the optimism, Justin. It's absolutely brilliant. But you can see there, Sipos still tried to close in on Matteo ahead. We've already seen Matteo is defending positions hard. He does not want to lose out, as Jakob is now coming into the pits, as Idaho briefly set the fastest lap of the race before it was quickly taken away by De Capua. 1:10.1 is the fastest lap so far. None of the races so far in this event have had the fastest lap bonus point awarded, because whoever set the fastest lap has always finished outside of the top top 10. Maybe this race could be slightly different. Sipos, though, still right on the back of Nicolas Matteo there. Sabo Conti was trying to go side by side with De Capua. De Capua is now in 5th place and looking to try and just slash the margin down between himself and Ido, who currently stands at 1.8.
Idaho is really on it today. No surprise there, but yeah, really having a fantastic race. He's looking to extend that gap to 2 seconds, actually. And that's after picking up a little bit of traffic as well. He picked up some traffic, I think, from Norbert Jakob towards the end of the previous lap. And now he's picking up some more traffic from Calvin up ahead, who has yet to be into the pits so far. So it's unfortunate for him, but he's still maintaining and even extending the gap to the other podium sitters as it stands right now. So he's doing everything that he can and then some, and doing a wonderful job. Again, the current net leader is Idaho well, he just moved up into 3rd.
Yeah, and it's the fast lap of the race so far as well. Patrick Sipos still on the back of Nicolas Matteo. We jump on board with the Renault driver. Of course, not actually a Renault driver driving in the Renault car would be a more accurate description, as Sipos there still right on the back of Matteo. Then in towards turn 3 we go. Still on the back of him right now. Matteo still looking ahead as well. Sabo Conti still just up the road as Calvin Klein comes into the pits then. So Jakob moves ahead of him as they are battling on that alternate strategy. So always interesting to see how they will get on as well. It gives us an idea of what is going to happen with Jan Fehler and Atta Kalpanen as well when they eventually rejoin onto a set of those soft tyres. But you can see there Matteo just doing enough to stay ahead of Sipos. And Sipos here, who had a chance of pole position, set a very early, quick lap time. And just the competitiveness of this field means 1/10 of a second, and you find yourself down the order. If you're stuck behind traffic as well, that's only going to exacerbate your issues.
Yeah, exactly right. Difficult things to have to deal with, but again, we're really seeing these guys rise to the challenge. So fantastic to see. I believe Jake W has picked up a 10-second time penalty for the dangerous driving for that dive bomb that we saw earlier on. So yeah, 10-second time penalty for the racing point.
So that'll be added to the end of his race time. Meanwhile, in the background there, I think we just saw a move in the background. Vallejo has actually moved ahead of Kevin Ballard. I think that was down the start-finish straight. So Vallejo now up into 6th place as he now tries to try and chase down Patrick Sipos ahead of him. Sipos right now, he's looking at the back of that McLaren right now. He's saying, I've had enough of this. I want to get past, but he just can't find that way through right now. Matteo doing really well, so just keep him back.
Yeah, Jan Fehler, by the way, gap to the leader, 8.7 seconds on fresh, soft tires. He's going to have to navigate a lot of cars. He's down outside the points at 11th position, just behind Thomas Amoros at the moment. But again, he is the leading alternate strategy driver. He's got those soft tire compounds on, and he's going to be looking to gain as many places as he can over the course of the next 6 laps or thereabout.
Yes, Idaho leading the way though. 2.3 separates himself and De Capua at this moment in time. Of course, he's looking for not only his first podium, but his first win as well of the series as we enter lap 13. We now have 6 laps to go, 5 and a bit if you're picky. Idaho leads from De Capua in 2nd, Sabo Conti in 3rd, Matteo 4th, Sipos in 5th, Vallejo in 6th, Balash 7th, Nerla in 8th, Hoglar in 9th, and Amaro rounding off the top 10.
Great stuff that we're seeing. Patrick Sipos still right on the back of Nicolas Matteo. I thought that Idaho and De Capua and Sabo Conti were going to be the ones that were going to be inseparable during the course of this race, but no, it is Matteo and Patrick Sipos. Nicolas Matteo and Patrick Sipos have been right together this entire time and putting on a heck of a show for us, I have to say.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they're nothing short of putting on a great show, are they? So it's absolutely great to watch. And although it's this close racing, you can see here, what's important is that you don't make a mistake. As we've already mentioned, if you make a mistake, you dangle that carrot over the rear wing, enticing the driver behind just ever further. So it's all about trying to keep a clean race, make the fewest mistakes possible, just drive a clean race. I say just drive a clean race. It's never as easy as that, of course.
Yeah, and as you touched on as well, if you earlier on, if you make a mistake, that's while trying to overtake somebody, you're going to end up being overtaken. As Jan Fehler finally gets the first of the overtakes done. Again, he's on those soft compound tires. Thomas Amoros in the Ferrari is on older medium compound tires. As we can see, Kalpanen actually setting the fastest lap of the race with his soft tires, dipping into the 110.0s actually. So we know what kind of pace those soft tires have. as a lot of the drivers are setting high 110s actually on the medium tire. So like the likes of Ruben Vallejo, Kevin Balash, these guys are in the 110.8, 110.9 kind of range.
Yeah, and that's impressive pace right now as he's just extending his lead lap by lap, just bit by bit. It's all he needs to do really to just keep himself at the front of the order and try and get himself his first series win of the year. But we are on lap number 14, 5 to go, forward a bit if you are picky. He still leads that way. And De Capua is actually driving a really good race. Although he's got drivers behind that will have that little bit of DRS, he's doing well to just keep the other drivers behind. Of course, De Capua comes into the night as the series leader. He's on 35 points, already has a win to his name. He got the win in Hanoi at the very first round. Riding on board then with Patrick Sipos as we make our way now down towards turn 1. No, he's not quite close enough. The problem he has is that Matteo ahead of him also has DRS, so the advantage down the straight lines is not going to be too good. Hoglar though gets a move on Jan Fehler though as he moves up into 9th place. So Jan Fehler down to 10th, trying to battle away with the Alpha Tauri there, but Hoglar holding on well, still on to 9th. But you can see Fehler all over the back of the Alpha Tauri. They're going side by side now as we make our way through, and that is a move that Fehler has made before turn 7. Up the inside he went. He's got the move done up to P9. He's not hanging around.
He really is not. He is not interested in waiting a whole other lap to attempt the overtake into turn 1. Got himself up another position. He's done. Oh, look at that! The back end stepping out, but it looked like he was on for a great exit there. He was going to apply the pressure on Sven Miller. He's going to grab that inside line. The McLaren gives him a little bit of space. He should get better traction out of this low-speed corner, but it's not going to be enough to see him challenge that McLaren through the final couple of corners of the lap. But he should have a great opportunity here to try and make an overtake into turn 1 and try to double his points tally yet again.
Yeah, it's almost like Nurla just lost the back end, and that encouraged Fehler to put the power down earlier, which resulted in him spinning up the rear tyres as well. So it's just got a little bit too eager there. This is riding on board with Jan Fehler though. So this is him battling along with Pablo Hoglar just a few seconds ago. He had the DRS, a little bit of slipstream as well. You could see then Hoglar defends to the inside, Nurla going round the outside in towards turn 1 and just slightly overcooks it. So Hoglar was able to hold on. So there wasn't actually a change of position just then as we headed in towards turn 3. Took a wider line in to try and get a better exit out of turn 3 with those soft tyres. So great battling away between the two of them, but eventually we saw Fehler get the move done. So great battling between the two of them there, and Fehler won the battle for the day.
Yeah, I'm surprised Pablo Hoglar actually fought that so much. Maybe he wasn't aware of Jan Fehler being on the soft tires, because yeah, that really is that kind of, it's kind of an inevitability at that point with so many laps left and such a deficit between the tire compound and the tire life as well. You can see Pablo Hoglar on 8-lap-old harder compound tires compared to 3-lap-old softer compound tires. So yeah, it really was bound to happen. But Jan Fehler has kind of stalled a little bit here. He hasn't managed to move up any further. Still in 9th position as we start the penultimate lap.
Oh, that's Nurle again losing that back end in towards turn 1, so he's really starting to struggle at the moment. You can see there, that's Jan Fehler right on the back of him as we now head our way in towards turn 3. Once again, Jan Fehler focuses on the exit of turn 3 to get the traction down. He's on those Red Bull soft tyres, and Baena now has a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He's trying to go for the fastest lap of the race, you would assume. Through turn 7, we follow this battle here for P8 and Nurle and Fehler. Remember though, Sven Nurle does have a 5-second penalty that will be added to the end of his race. So although Fehler may not get this battle done out on track, he will get the battle done in terms of standings.
Oh, and actually, I wonder if Kalpanen is within that 5 seconds. Of course, that wouldn't move him up into the points, though. No, that would only move him up into 11th position, so really not much benefit to him. But yeah, this has got to be so frustrating for Jan Fehler. He's going to finish ahead of this McLaren no matter what happens, unless something absolutely catastrophic goes on, as Jake W. picked up a 3-second time penalty. That's probably for track limits or something of the like. On to the final lap, though, not much longer. Just over 1 minute remaining before we see the checkered flag for Josh leading the way with that 2.4-second gap. Will Patrick Sipos finally make that overtake on Nicholas Matteo?
Well, he's only got around about 4 kilometres in which to do it. So if he wants to try and do it, it needs to be soon, as he now makes his way through. 5th place so far, but he wants that 4th place in this race as he now finds his way through turn 6, onwards now towards turn 7. That's Jake Wills retiring from the session. Unfortunate for him, it's not been his day at all. And he got it wrong on the entrance in towards turn 11. Never really looked forward from there. So he'll just try and regroup and go to Austria to in a good stead. Sipos, though, still on the back of that McLaren of Nicolas Matteo as we now make our way over towards turn 11. Now, there's a driver we haven't seen for much of this race, apart from that fantastic qualifying lap. That's normally a good sign, especially when you're leading this race. It means you've had the least dramatic race of the lot. And it's Josh Idawu who rounds the final corner flat out towards the line. He's going to take the win here in Zandvoort, weaving left and right. He knows he's done it. Josh Idawu then wins here in Zandvoort. De Capua grabs 2nd place, Sabo Conny rounding off the top 3, Matteo in 4th, Patrick Sipos in 5th, Vallejo in 6th, Kevin Balash in 7th, Jan Fela finishing in 8th, Hoglar in 9th, and Amaro picking up a point there at the end. Atta Kalpanen in 11th place, Sven Merler with that 5-second penalty drops out of the points, finishing in 12th place, Calvin Klein in 13th, Norbert Jakob in 14th, and Baena still out there on a flying lap, almost trying to get the fastest lap of the race, but eventually he will pick up 15th place in this race, and he'll be across the line any moment now. But after what was a not so great Chinese Grand Prix, we saw Josh Idawu, he ran into hardware issues at the Chinese Grand Prix, had to retire from that. What a way to bounce back with your first race win of the series.
Yeah, we did get confirmation actually after that race last time for Event 1 that it was in fact some sort of technical issue that he had encountered where he wasn't able to get his setup onto the car in time and was trying to compete with these guys with a default setup, which is more for drivability than it is for outright pace. And it's really difficult to try and keep up with these top level guys when they're at that kind of pace. But oh man, he really deserves this one.
He really, really does. And he's been working so hard for it as well, especially when you get to round number 1. He just missed out on that podium there, finishing in 4th place. But this will not only be his first win, but his first podium as well. So a fantastic result for Josh Idawu there. And I mean, that was a great race all round. I mean, De Capua showed some good pace, Sabo Conny as well. I mean, they both set exactly the same lap time. And in the end, they were only separated by a couple of seconds out on track. So really good for those two as well. Looking at the rest of the order then, Jan Fela, I got to say, he got the in-game driver of the day, started 11th, finished in 8th. Not a bad day at the office.
Yeah, I think he probably will be a little bit disappointed about that one. I think he would have wanted to be a little bit higher up than that. I think probably top 5, something like that, is maybe what he was aiming for. But in the end, unfortunately, it just wasn't to be for Jan Fehler. 8th was the best that he could manage. But again, starting from 11th on the grid, picking up positions, getting some championship points as well. When you have 10 races over the course of the season, that could make a huge difference. Those points could be all the difference between going to the draft and not.
It really could, and just to take you through that, Josh Idawu taking the race win, De Capua 2nd, Sabo Conny in 3rd place, Matteo in 4th, Patrick Sipos rounding out the top 5. I mean, it was a great race from pretty much all involved. Just talk quickly about Jake Wills, because that move at turn 11, it just looked like he missed his braking point. Nothing intentional in it, and that's what can happen when you're just so eager to get some moves done.
That's what we saw from CRG Matthias in China for Event 1. Just, that kind of stuff is going to happen when you are right on the limit of what's physically possible in these cars. If you miss that braking point by even a couple of meters, then that means you're going a couple meters off the course, probably, and you're very likely going to take somebody with you, and that's exactly what we saw, unfortunately. It's just a race to forget for Jake, but he's got the opportunity to bounce back right away, which is the nice part about this 2021 Challengers series, is that we've got 2 races each day, so it might have been a bad one right off the start, but he's got a second opportunity here today.
He has indeed. And another strong performance from Alessio De Capua. Right now, 2 out of 3 of his results have been podiums, one of them being a race win. He's in great form at the moment.
Yeah, looking really good coming into today's race. What was it, with a 5-point lead, and Kalpanen didn't outscore him, so I imagine he's still going to be having the lead as we head into race 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And De Capua and Sabo Conny, in qualifying, they set exactly the same lap time. And in terms of race pace, they looked pretty much on par with each other. No surprise to see Sabo Conny picking up a podium there. He had a great race today.
Yeah, he really did. A great qualifying, as you said, great race as well. And somebody who we didn't really see a whole lot of in Event 1 at Vietnam and China, or who didn't maybe have the results that he was expecting. So way to turn things around. Great result so far. Certainly, try to carry that momentum into the next race and score maximum points here today and try to get yourself into that top 6, that all-important top 6 to go to the Pro Draft, to have a chance to be picked by one of the teams.
Yeah, and I'm just having a look at Sabo Konyi there. He got a 9th place at Vietnam, didn't score any points in China. So what a way to get back on the score sheet with 15 points added to your name as well. That's a fantastic way to turn it around. And it just shows us, it just proves to us that yes, you can have a bad race. Yes, you can have a bad track in your mind. But when the right track comes along and you've got the right mindset, anything's possible.
And also, some of these teams are actually looking to find a driver who maybe isn't perfect, who doesn't have all of the qualities necessarily, but who is teachable, somebody that they can mold into the driver that they want, So just because, as you said, just because you have a bad result, not a problem. It's how you bounce back. It's how you perform over the course of the season. Again, priority 1 is just getting to the draft. If you could get to the draft, then you've already overcome the major hurdle. The next one after that is getting picked by one of the teams. The next one after that is actually performing well in the Pro Series. The next one after that is winning the Pro Series. So there's still a few steps away, but they've already made one of the biggest steps, which is getting into the Challenger Series, and then performing well as well is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and it shows your resilience as well. If you're willing to bounce back and put the effort in, put the work in, put the hours in, and I know these drivers do put the hours in. It's no joke how much time they spend putting in the laps, grinding out those tenths of a second if they can find them. It's just amazing the amount of resilience they actually have. Obviously, we can't go any further without talking about Atte Kauppinen. I mean, he came into this second in the series, 2 good results in the first 2 rounds, but 11th place this time around. I mean, we're expecting more from him in Austria, are we?
Yeah, and that's actually what we saw earlier in the week as well too. We saw drivers that were leading the championship failing. Jonas, was it yesterday? Yeah, I believe it was. Just really struggling with these 2 tracks and finishing in 11th position in both races. So Kauppinen is definitely not going to be looking to replicate that performance. He's going to look to bounce back and try and have a better performance in Austria. But I imagine 11th has got to be the most frustrating position for you to finish in, because you are right there, just outside the points, and again, every point does help. So I'm assuming he would have preferred to pick up a couple of points. He did gain positions in the race. Poor qualifying, down in 13th, moved up to 11th by the time the checkered flag was out, which is a positive to look at. But again, it's got to be so frustrating to come home with 0 points after a race like that.
Absolutely, and I think I'm being told in my ear we do have Josh ready for an interview, so if we can get him in here, we can have a chat with our race winner of round number 3. Josh, Josh, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you crystal clear. Josh, I mean, you made that look easy. Your first race win of the series. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was a perfect race pretty much. Managed to get the pole just about. And then the race, yeah, I just about managed to break out of the DRS of Bent, and from that point on there, it was about keep just maintaining the gap. Pray that I don't get held in the pits like you've seen last time out in Vietnam, but all was well, and then, yeah, I was able to just bring it home comfortably.
I mean, especially as well after you had that hardware issue back in China. I mean, this must be a great way to really bounce back from that.
Yeah, China was quite dumb from my end, to be honest.
I did call it hardware issue to save face, but if you want to...
Yeah, it was just a silly mistake, but yeah, happy to bounce back. Hopefully I don't do the same thing in this session.
And just while we've got you quickly, Josh, I mean, we've got Austria coming up next. What do you think your chances are like for that one?
The pace is good again. I'm just not a big fan of the one-shot qualifying. It's quite tricky having only 1 lap, but yeah, I'm still confident. I think I can take the win again.
Well, let's see what you can do out there for Austria. Josh, it's been a pleasure having you. We'll leave you alone now to fully prepare for that one-shot qualifying you're so looking forward to.
Thank you.
Oh, really nice really nice when the drivers come and have a chat with us, Justin, of all people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's nice to talk to Josh outside of league racing as well too. It's nice to chat to him while we're doing the F1 Esports.
Oh, absolutely. And he's pretty confident now going in towards Austria. Obviously, not feeling great about the one-shot qualifying, but this is the ultimate test for the drivers, getting that single lap to actually put on the great lap to get you to the pole position. No mistakes, no invalidations, just you and the car for one lap.
Yeah, Josh really seems like one of those drivers that kind of winds up to the perfect lap. You know, he goes out there and he didn't immediately shoot up to the top of the timing sheets. He was putting in competitive times at Zandvoort, but he wasn't immediately displacing the top guys or anything like that. He seemed to almost be taking his time with it and kind of getting into the rhythm, getting into the groove, feeling it out. And unfortunately, with the one-shot qualifying, you cannot do that. You just do not have that luxury. And it is going to benefit some drivers over other drivers. But that's the beauty of this format, is the variety of the circuits, the variety of the qualifying. You know, it just mixes things up just in the perfect way to make it super exciting.
Absolutely. And I think we've just got time. We've got one other driver ready for an interview. I think it's 9th placed Pablo Hoglar. Pablo, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Pablo, it's great to have you with us. 9th place so far in Zandvoort. I mean, talk us through that race for you. How did you find it?
Well, it was very difficult, especially in the race. Obviously, everyone has pace, but in the qualifying, for the most part, I found it very difficult to get the lap in. Although I got a very good lap, I think I could have done 1/10 better in qualifying. So it was P6 to P10, 1/10, so it was a bit frustrating, but then in the race I did well. I think I did a good pace, I had a good pace, and yeah, P9, 1 place up in the race. I think I could have done P8. Jan Feller overtook me with a different strategy, but well, it is good to get P9 and my first points.
Yeah, I was about to say that's your first points of the season as well, so that's at least a good stead for you. Just a quick one about qualifying. I mean, when you're qualifying in 10th place on the soft tyres, do you feel you're at an advantage or is it a disadvantage to P11?
Well, it's a massive disadvantage. I was frustrated as well at the end of the qualifying because I wanted to get knocked out at P11, but yeah, I guess I did very well, no? And I got P10, but it is what it is.
Well, we've got Austria coming up quickly, so I won't keep you long, but how are you looking forward to Austria? What do you think you can do there?
I think my one lap quali pace is good, so I think I can deal with the pressure and get a good result. Now I will invalidate the lap and finish last, but I think I can do well, and I prepare to do well in the qualifying, and that's very key. In these two circuits, the qualifying is very key, and I think in Austria, as much as Zandvoort, and it will be very important.
Well, Pablo, we won't keep you any longer. We'll let you get into the mindset of that one-shot qualifying, but thank you for joining us, and good luck in Austria.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we've... you've got something from Jake, have you there, Justin?
Yes, I do, actually. We don't have time to interview him. We're going to be moving on to the next event. But he did wanted to say he apologized for the incident. He got squeezed. He was right to the edge of the circuit, couldn't see his braking point, and unfortunately just, domino effect.
Yeah, and that is so unfortunate as well. As I mean, it's another race now. Just wipe the slate clean. We'll see what happens here. But we can now go into the we're going to the hopefully not just yet. Oh, we've ruined it. Danny Kvyat's taken us for the lap around. Anyway, well, we'll take you on that hot lap in just a minute. The surprise, it's gone. Oh no. Anyway, we take you now to the Austrian Grand Prix, of course, the serene Austrian Grand Prix as well. I mean, we've been here before, plenty of times before, Justin. Fantastic track to race around, and if it remains dry, we've got a race time of less than 20 minutes here in a 25% race. And believe it or not, I haven't said this fact before, but the Austrian Grand Prix is actually longer in length than the race we were just at Zandvoort. Crazy, I know. I'm still holding out for a 61-second lap time, but we'll have to wait and see. 4.3 kilometers takes us around the very low number to 10 corners here. 3 DRS zones give us plenty of top speed and plenty of undulation to give us that racing chance. But let's take you to the surprise driver for this hot lap.
Hi, it's Daniel Kvyat. I'm a Scuderia Alfa Tauri driver, and I would like to talk about the Red Bull Ring track in Austria. It's a very short track with only 10 corners. They are all very high speed, so it makes it a very challenging track. So you need to be very precise in every of this corner in order to make a competitive lap time. So we're here in Austria, try to get a good speed for the long straight. Quite big braking for a medium speed corner, turn 1, right-handed corner. Very long straight now, coming with a little uphill, a little bit bumpy here for braking. Try to brake quite late. There is a quite big camber change in the middle of that corner, so the exit can be quite tricky with the traction. Another long straight, as you can see, using DRS, downhill braking. Also very late. Try to use everything on the exit, and short straight and very high speed section now. Downhill, corner, very fast, left-handed, another one, very long corner as well, more than 250 kph, so very high g-force, and now very fast second last corner. Can be quite tricky with the rear and big compression in the apex of last corner. And that's it. It was a lap in Austria.
As that, but that's the very short nature of this track in terms of lap time for sure. I'm still holding out for that 61-second lap time. Can we do it? Well, one-shot qualifying makes it just that little bit more difficult, a little bit more tense to try and actually get that lap time fully down, but anything can happen. We've already seen drivers get close to 61 seconds, but well, we'll have to wait and see what happens here. Of course, the Red Bull Ring brings us to the Austrian Grand Prix. One-shot qualifying will hopefully be joining that one in a second, but obviously the pressure mounts for these drivers, doesn't it, Justin?
It does indeed. Also, I have to reveal, I think the one-shot qualifying is actually my favorite part of each of these broadcasts. I don't know if it's just because I get to sit here and listen to you try to commentate on 16 cars driving the same lap simultaneously, but it's just such a treat for me personally. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. Well, we know how Josh feels about it, but I don't know how the viewers at home feel about the one-shot qualifying, but I am in love with it. Again, I'm glad we don't do it for every single race, but it's just so nice to have that little bit of variety.
Yes, absolutely, and the one-shot qualifying really does test the nerve and the actual, how you can manage pressure, as you mentioned last night, Justin. That's how it rolls here in Challengers. We like putting these scenarios in front of the drivers and seeing how they react to them. And so far, one-shot qualifying has sort of mixed up the grids in that moment. So we'll have to wait and see how it all goes. I'm saying, and I'm holding out for these 61-second lap times, but we don't even know if it's raining out on track at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. All this hype, all this build-up I've done for a 61-second lap time, just, you wait and see when it starts raining. You wait and see. It will happen, won't it?
It's very, very possible. We've seen it once already. So yeah, I give it 50-50 odds on that one.
50-50, yeah. It's either going to rain or it's not. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, that is my professional weather opinion. You can take that to the bank.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
But I'm really, really looking forward to this. I'm also really, really bummed though, because this is, of course, the last race of the week. Again, 5 events total, but the last race of the week. And the last qualifying of the week is going to be coming up before the last race of the week. But it's absolutely flown by. And do I dare say it? I will say it. It's been even better than Event 1. I have really, really enjoyed Zandvoort in Austria. They're not personally my favorite tracks to drive on, but just the show that they've put on for us this week across all the platforms has been second to none.
Yeah, absolutely. And grab your popcorn, grab a drink, because this is the last Challengers race we'll have until next month. You're going to have to wait until the 23rd of February before we go racing again on the PS4 side. But we like to keep you on the edge of your seats for these ones, and especially when it gets to the back end of the season, it just ramps up that pressure. Lots of time for the drivers to practice these certain tracks, lots of time for them to try and just shave off 10th after 10th, which then becomes 100th after 100th, and even going down to the 1,000th of a second. That they will go to many hours just to shave off 1,000th of a second. I've seen it.
Yeah, it of course gets harder and harder as anybody who's attempted to do racing online or in a video game just against AI as well. But it gets harder and harder. It's all sunshine and roses at first when you're finding tenths per corner. But then once you start to get to the level that these guys are at, and you're training for hours on end to find 500ths of a second, that's where it gets frustrating for me personally. But you have to have the determination, the drive, the competitiveness that these drivers all have in order to put in that kind of work and to be that half tenth faster than all of your competitors. And that's really what separates them from the average just racing gamer, you know, somebody that's loading up F1 2020 and doing some career mode. You know, that's a blast. That's all good fun, but it is work what these guys do, and you have to really, really love it in order to put in that kind of hours.
You do, and these guys are loving this as much as possible because they know it's that step onto that pro exhibition. That top 6 is what they're all trying to aim for. We've got one-shot qualifying coming up your way, and then we'll have a 25% race around one of the quickest laps on the calendar before we then take you on to some of the longest tracks on the calendar for next month. But that's for the preview later on tonight. For now, we have Austria to build up even more. And yeah, as we've already said, that one-shot qualifying is going to be key. But Justin, who do you pick out as one to watch for this one-shot qualifying? Who do you reckon could grab pole?
You know what? I'm gonna pick Patrick Sipos. I really was impressed by that 107 he put in the Netherlands right out of the gate on that very green circuit. And I think that shows the kind of skill that you need in order to be successful in one-shot qualifying. So I think Patrick Sipos, and you know, for all I know, he's actually terrible at Austria, and I've made a terrible decision. But yeah, we saw that he's able to just join a session and shoot right to the top of the timing tables. And I mean, that first time that he put in the Netherlands was just a few tenths away from what ended up being the ultimate pace of Josh. So yeah, certainly I think Patrick Sipos has a real opportunity here to grab that one-shot qualifying pole position.
Absolutely. And going into this, I mean, you would back De Capua as well to have a strong qualifying session. I mean, 2 out of the 3 finishes he's had so far this season have been on the podium. He'll be looking to make that 3/4 as he breaks his way in towards round 4. But maybe a sort of fast-charging Bentis Savo Konyi could get himself on pole position. We've had so many pole positions where we've thought, where did that lap time come from?
Yeah, exactly right. And in fact, the safe bet here maybe to pick someone that we have not seen on pole or on the top step of the podium yet, because that's kind of been the trend of the 2021 F1 Esports Challengers season so far, is just shock and awe, just complete surprise and unpredictability. And so, yeah, who knows who's going to take pole position here? It could be any one of these 16 drivers, honestly.
It could. And we obviously have to check in with our 3 reserve drivers, filling in 4 drivers tonight. We've got Norbert Jakob, Ika Baena and Calvin Klein, who are all filling in tonight. And at the moment, Baena finished that last race in 12th, I do believe. Calvin Klein 13th and Norbert Jakob in 14th. And, this is potentially a last race that they've got to prove to themselves and prove to everybody else that they deserve to be on this grid. But when they're coming up against these drivers who have been turning the wheel constantly, who know their permanent fixings, it just depends on how late on they found out they'd actually be racing here tonight.
Yeah, it's so difficult to just come in like that, to be told. I don't know what kind of, how much heads up they would have been provided in terms of, how much practice they were able to get in before the race started and everything. But again, it's a really, really tough field of drivers, the most competitive field of drivers that we've ever seen in F1 Esports Series Challengers. So, you can't be expected to just rock up and pick up a race win, easy peasy. It was never going to be that easy for any of these guys, but I think they showed that they were all on the pace and deserve to be here, if nothing else.
Yes, absolutely, and they are rightfully deserving to be here. They've done their best in the events that led up to challenges here. They've qualified, they've shown they're quick enough, so they've just got to try and do their best, make sure that everybody knows their name in terms of pace by the end of the night. And they've got one more chance to do it when we head to Austria in a couple of minutes time. And one person who will be wanting to try and bounce back as much as possible, Jake Wills. Obviously he had that incident at turn 11. He's made his statement, and hopefully the air is clear, but he wants to really recover from this one because it's been a tough start for him so far.
Yeah, I mean, he apologized, and again, purely an accident. And I think it's one of those things where I think people are absolutely willing to forgive and forget and all of that kind of stuff, as long as it doesn't become a regular thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And as we've already said, you can have a bad 2-3 races and try and get away with the top 6, but you've got to try and break out of that form and just try and get yourself up the order, even a couple of points. We've already had a chat to Pablo Hoglar, who's really happy to finally get some points on the board, and that's going to be important for him, because that's that momentum and that's encouragement that you need to really push yourself forward in terms of the standings.
Yeah, exactly right. And I don't know what the goals are for all of these drivers. I would assume, though, just again based on the competitiveness of everybody, I would assume everybody is showing up here wanting to win. I don't know if they expect to win. I don't, I just don't know. I haven't talked to anybody at that level where I'm actually asking them, like, hey, do you think you can win? Do you think you're going to win this? For some of these people, it may be, this is their first time ever at this level of competitiveness. And so they're just doing their best just to stay competitive, not crash out, all of that kind of stuff. And maybe they're, this is a building block for next season or something. Because, of course, many of these drivers would have very likely last year just missed out on F1 Esports Series Challengers. They were one of those reserve drivers that didn't quite make it in and never got to see a green flag or checkered flag or anything like that. But now they find themselves actually racing in it and going up against some pretty well-known people, very quick drivers. Again, Josh Idawu is a very fast, well-known driver. We've seen him before in the F1 Esports Series Challengers in previous seasons. Some of the other drivers as well, too. Sven Zerner has raced at the very top, the tippy top as well. So some of these guys have unbelievable amounts of experience and talent. And, I don't know what each individual driver's goal for this season is, but they've all been impressive. It's very clear to me that nobody here is undeserving of their space.
I mean, I've talked to a handful of drivers going into challenges here, and most of them have said that they want to win and nothing else. And when all of them want to win, that competitive edge comes out in everybody. They know what they're up against. They know what to try and go through. But when I asked them at the start of the season, who did they think their driver or their rival was going into it, they couldn't really narrow it down, because some drivers, as you were talking about over the last week, haven't really raced against each other before. This is the first time they'll have actually raced alongside each other. So they were really sort of vague as to who they were going to pick out as their rival. Some of them did, some of them left it open, and I think both are fair answers.
Exactly right. Yeah, I would say that's extremely fair, especially considering the number of different winners that we've seen so far this season has just been unreal. I don't think I've ever seen an F1 Esports quite like this, whether it's Pro Series or Challengers or whatever it might be. Just the variety of winners and pole sitters and all of that kind of stuff has truly been amazing. Again, heading into yesterday's races, the Xbox side had the biggest gaps in terms of the championship standings. But the PS4 and the PC side, very, very close. We're talking like single-digit numbers between first, second, third, fourth, etc. When it comes to the championship standings coming into this.
Absolutely, and of course we're just looking at those competitive names and just trying to remind ourselves of how far they've come. I mean, you had Nicolas Matteo as well. I mean, he's been doing a fine job as well. He's currently 4th in the series going into tonight. Obviously, we haven't taken into account his previous result last time out, but having a look at it, he got a 2nd at China. He got himself in the points, I believe. Yeah, just about in the points in Vietnam, a 10th place. Then he got himself a 4th place. I mean, he's one of those drivers that's really running under the radar right now.
Yeah, and those sorts of people are going to become more and more visible as we get towards the end of the season, because of course consistency is not something that immediately comes to your eye when you're watching these early stages. You don't notice the guys that are constantly coming home in the points and maintaining a top 6 position without the podiums and the race wins and that sort of thing. But that'll change as we get further and further into the season, when people are going, hang on a second, how is this guy in 4th, but he's never been on the top step of the podium or never had a pole position or whatever it might be. And that's when they really start taking notice. So drivers like that, they may feel like they're going under the radar currently, but that will change as we get closer and closer to the season's end.
Yeah, and these early points, these early big points as well, will be huge in a table towards the end of the season when you're just trying to make sure that you finish as high up the table as possible. Taking a win here or there won't do you any harm at all. So far in Challengers, we have not had over the 3 platforms a race winner over 2 races, so a person winning 2 races. We haven't had that yet. Every race we've run has had a different winner all throughout. I wonder if that trend is going to continue here when we head to Spielberg for the 3rd time this week.
I really do. I have to imagine that's some kind of record for F1 Esports. The number of different winners that we've had. I have to imagine that's some kind of record because, yeah, in seasons past, it really seemed like there was like, the one to beat, which is exactly why you asked these guys, who do you think is the one to beat? And the fact that they couldn't give you an answer, and the fact that we haven't had anyone win 2 races yet, and they've been to 4 different venues, I think speaks volumes to that fact.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're hopefully going to get you to that one-shot qualifying. I know you've been very, very patient, and we will get you there as soon as we possibly can. But I hope you've enjoyed our little natter. We do like to waffle, Justin and I, and hopefully you are enjoying along at home. We will bring you this Austrian Grand Prix when we soon can. In the meantime, though, let's just talk about someone else. I mean, as we've already said, some of these drivers out here have been putting in some hard work, and we are here now joining into back end of this one-shot qualifying session as we ride on board here, and it's that awful rain here where some drivers are running on slick tires here. In fact, all the drivers are running on slick tires, but it's a slippery track. Oh, that's a combination I was not expecting here. So who's going to be able to come out on top? De Capua looks like he's going to get himself onto that pole position. They head towards that start-finish line, and it is De Capua who gets pole position, 109.3, throws that 61-second lap time out of the window, but dry tyres on an ever getting wet track. I mean, that's incredible from all of these drivers. They just threw caution to the wind, put the slick tyres on, and just did not care. And that is De Capua grabbing pole position by a huge, huge margin there. What a lap time from the Italian.
Enormous, more than 4/10, and in absolutely shocking conditions. You can see, again, as we stated, every single one of the drivers went out on the slick tires. And I think that was the right call. I don't think the intermediates would have been the right choice, but look at that. That is shocking from De Capua. I can't imagine the conditions will continue into the race, so he'll probably struggle there relatively, but wow, that's something.
Well, De Capua then grabs pole position for the Austrian Grand Prix. It's Vallejo in 2nd place, Kevin Balash in 3rd, with Jan Fehler up into 4th, Patrick Sipos in 5th place, with Pablo Hoglar in 6th, Kalpanen in 7th, Sabo Konyi in 8th, Josh Idawu in 9th, and Jake Wills rounding out the top 10. Norbert Jakob then in 11th place, Sven Noller in 12th, Thomas Amaro in 13th, Baena in 14th, Klein in 15th, and Matteo 16th. I believe, though, Klein and Matteo didn't get a lap time on the board. They were disqualified from the session because they'd invalidated their lap time. Baena didn't complete their lap, so they will actually start ahead of those that invalidated their lap. The problem that they have now is that because they've all qualified on those slick tyres, all of them will have to start that race, assuming it's dry, on a set of tyres they've just qualified on. Have to say, though, doesn't look too encouraging, but it looks like it's going to be a dry start.
Yeah, it looks like it's no precipitation, but that is rather threatening. We saw a similar sky like that yesterday, actually, for the Xbox side. So, yeah, a little slightly different, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the race, whether that rain comes, because it did actually clear up on the Xbox side after looking like this at the start.
Yes, it did. The sun eventually did break through. And for Alessio De Capua, he could be the first person across the entire Challengers to get 2 race wins in the series. He's got a few laps ahead of him, of course, for this Austrian Grand Prix, and he'll be looking to try and get the advantage there. Can anybody get in front of him as we count up to the beginning of the Austrian Grand Prix? It is 5 red lights. And we're racing in Spielberg. One of the starts, like it's a good start from De Capua, and also a great start there from Patrick Sipos. He's already up into 4th place as we pile our way now in towards turn 1. Can everyone make it through? Patrick Sipos going round the outside. He's already up into 3rd. He's on a massive charge right now as we all make our way in towards turns 2 and up the hill towards turn 3. We're going 3 wide in the background, possibly even 4 wide in the background, in towards the braking zone at turn 3. Can everybody keep it clean all the way through? Red arrows and green arrows as far as the eye can see, but it's Kevin Balash now now into 4th place. Kalpanen has moved up into 5th place there. Sabo Konyi is under pressure from Pablo Hoglar now, making our way down in towards turn 4. We've also got Kalpanen up the inside of Kevin Balash, now making our way through turn 5. Kalpanen trying to hold on round the outside as he had the inside line for turn 6 as we now make our way through that double left-hander. Nurle is now up into 10th place. He's past Nicolas Matteo. Norbert Jakob, though, has dropped down to 15th place as we now make our way through turn 8. And there is Sabo Konyi still under pressure from Pablo Hoglar. They're going to go side by side in through turn 9. And that is Pablo Hoglar who's taken that inside line. He now moves up into 7th place. Sabo Konyi down to 8th place. And it's been a dramatic opening lap so far.
Big gap already starting to form between 3rd and 4th position outside the DRS range for Kalpanen in 4th, so that's going to be a little bit of a problem for him as Kevin Balash is going to pick up the DRS next lap, assuming the conditions remain like this. It is still rather ominous, but here we go. Sabo Konyi on the attack.
So he is, as Sabo Konyi tries to go round the outside as well, trying to head his way in towards turn 3. Not quite the move it was on there for him. Josh Idawu still lurking in the background. Sabo Konyi pulls out of the slipstream. Of course, DRS not online just yet. It's not lap 3 yet. He's going round the outside in towards turn 4. Can he hold on for that one? Right onto the curb on the left-hand side on the exit of 4. He'll have the inside for turn 5. And Sabo Konyi now takes back that position that Hoglar just took away from him. He's now back up into 7th place.
What a way to do it as well. Around the outside at turn 4, that is some impressive stuff. It's difficult to go around the outside of such a long corner such as that, but up into 7th position, still within DRS range of Jan Fehler. Speaking of which, DRS about to be activated as the Capitalist starts lap 3.
Here we go then, DRS online, so let's see what happens. Vallejo is just about within DRS range of De Capua still, but just hanging on by a thread at this moment in time. But what a start from Patrick Sipos. He absolutely flew out of the markers there.
That was incredible. From 5th to 3rd extremely quickly, and with that gap as well too, so he can run a little bit cleaner without having to worry behind. Oh, it's Nicolas Matteo, unfortunately, is leaving the session, so that's the end of the race for him. But on board with Bence Sabo Konyi, he is running behind Jan Fehler at the moment. Everybody on softs, by the way, except for the 2 medium runners at the back.
Yeah, and that's Calvin Klein and Bianca, and we see here what's happening with this replay. So we're seeing Amaro and Klein there. That's Amaro going right up the inside in towards turn 6 there. Nice move from Amaro to move him up a position there as they now make their way through turn 8, or as they did make their way through turn 8 there, as we rejoin the action then live. So a nice move there from Amaro. That put him up into 12th place. He was on the soft tyres, so he needed to get that move done.
Yeah, and he did indeed. Very, very impressive stuff. But still having a look at Sabo Konyi as, Kalpanen picks up a 3-second time penalty. Now, it's worth mentioning, yesterday on the Xbox side, I believe was the race that we saw the most so far in this series, in the 2021 F1 Esports Challengers, with the most penalties. So it really does seem that some drivers having a hard time coming to terms with this Red Bull ring.
Yeah, and it's difficult as well with the corners here. You really want to try and take as much out of the track as possible, but the track does bite back with those time penalties, so you've got to be careful. You've got to try and make it a balancing act. Ika Baena and Nicolas Matteo are 2 retirements from the race so far. Unfortunate to see them retire from the race, but Baena, his stint as the reserve, at least for this event, is over. So who knows if we'll see him soon going into the next event, but hopefully we will see him back at some point in some form here in Challengers this year. De Capua, though, leads the way. Vallejo in 2nd. Patrick Sipos, who got a lightning start off the grid, in 3rd place. Kalpanen in 4th, but with that time penalty. Kevin Balash in 5th place. Jan Fehler. Oh, we got someone in the wall. Pablo Hoglar, he looks like he's lit up the rear tyres out of turn 10 and headed straight for the inside wall. That's going to be major front wing damage for Pablo Hoglar there. So unfortunate, but if that's the case, as he's tried to put the power down and the rear tyres have just simply spun up, and that's him heading straight to the wall. So unfortunate.
Yeah, worst part of the circuit to have it happen as well too, just past the pit entrance, so he's going to have to do an entire lap pretty much with the car looking like that. So he's just going to be losing heaps of time as he gets into the braking zone. He's got a large chunk of the front wing missing, an entire end plate missing as well too. Josh Idawu here in 8th position as De Capua, the leader, has disconnected. That's immediately lost him his 1st place position. Ruben Vallejo takes the lead.
Yeah, and he's going to be trying to get away from Patrick Sipos here. I mean, I'll tell you what, Patrick Sipos is on lightning pace right now. He could really try and take advantage. In fact, he pits in early to try and get an undercut. Now, we've seen this before already, Justin, that the undercut can be powerful around here, so long as really no one else pits with you. And at the moment, no one else is. So Patrick Sipos is going to have the pit lane all to himself. He'll put on a set of medium tyres. He's going to try and get this to the end of the race and just get out of that dirty air. He doesn't see a way past Vallejo, at least out on track for now. Kevin Balash in the background getting through to Capua will be desperately trying to rejoin this session as best as he possibly can at literally the worst time to disconnect.
Yeah, that is, and I hate to point it out, but you were the one that did the commentator cursing that time, mentioning the first person to win 2 races in the 2021 season. It's not looking like that's going to be happening now.
No, I did. I do apologise on stream right now to Alessio De Capua for that one. That is entirely my fault. Lap 6, though, of this race, then Vallejo now leads the Ray Kalpanen with that time penalty. In second place, Kevin Balash in third, with Jan Fehler in fourth, Sabo Conti in fifth, Idaho in sixth place, Nurla in seventh. Jake Wills is now moved up into 8th place. Now, this was a race he really needed to bounce back from, and it looks like he's trying to get some points on the board here. Lots of drivers coming into the pit lane. This pit lane is going to get very, very busy. Vallejo in the pit lane, Kalpanen as well as, I think that's Vallejo, Idaho, Fehler as well. It's difficult to see because they're all jumping all over the place, but those are the 4 drivers you can see in the pit lane now, looking to go on to a set of medium tyres to get themselves to the end.
I know Idaho has had some bad luck with his pit stops so far in this season, and I'm sure he'll be hoping that this one goes a little bit smoother. Only a handful of cars in the pits for that stop, so that's going to be beneficial for him. Will reduce the likelihood that he'll get held up in the pits. So, yeah, he's down into 13th position, and I do believe he has lost time in the pits, if I'm not mistaken on that. I would have to double check for sure, but it hasn't been the best of pits. But again, he had a difficult qualifying, just qualified just inside the top 10, and is doing the best to try and get as many points as he can, but difficult to overtake as we've seen at this circuit. And also De Capua, again, that was that ghosted Haas that you guys would have seen slipping down the order. Again, the game just kind of ghosts it, that way there's no contact or anything weird going on like that. Nobody gets held up. So De Capua is slowly slipping back. I don't know if he's going to be able to get back in or not, but more cars into the pits.
Yeah, Pablo Hoglar as well has retired from the race. Of course, he lit up the rear tyres out of turn 10, hit the wall and decided that was his day done. He's got some points on the board, but he would have wanted Austria to go a lot better than it did. He did have some pace on those tyres. Running on board then with Klein then as he makes his way now in towards turn 3, right on the back of Norbert Jakob. Now, these two are the 2 reserve drivers out of 3 that are left in this race, and they're looking to try and leave a mark on Challengers here as they now make their way down towards turn 4. The 2 of them will be battling out on track because, of course, if they want to come back here, they've already proven that they're one of the fast drivers enough to be reserve. And this is their chance now to put their names on the board.
Exactly right. And, you know, these opportunities don't always come around, so you got to take that opportunity when it presents itself. So we're rapidly approaching half distance, though, in this race. As we've pointed out before, it is a very, very short race time, just because of how fast this circuit is and how fast these drivers are. So we're already coming up. We're about 1 lap away from the halfway point of the race.
They are indeed, and Nurla comes into the pits then, so that means our 2 reserve drivers here in Challengers take over the lead of the race. Norbert Jakob there in the lead, Calvin Klein in second place, and there is De Capua, who's joined back into session. That's good to see, but when he takes back control of his car, he will not be happy about where he is.
Yeah, exactly right. He's going to be pretty frustrated about that one. He'll be wishing the AI was a lot faster, but of course the AI just cannot contend with the level of driving that these guys are at. So De Capua also hasn't been into the pits, which is why he is so far up. You guys might be wondering, why am I seeing him going so slow and ghosting and yet also in third? And that's just because he hasn't been into the pits yet. So now that he's retaken control of his car, he's going to head into the pits, fit a new set of tires, and see what he can do in the second half of this race. It's a damage limitation.
Going side by side there, and that's Kevin Balash, who's made a move now on Jan Fehler. So Balash now moves up into 7th place, going all the way through turn 6 there. Upper position, he's now got a hold of 7th place and looking to try and close the gap now between himself and Atte Kalpanen, who, of course, as you can see, has a time penalty next to his name that'll be added to the end of his race. Josh Iderwood here looking on the back of Jan Fehler as we now make our way in towards that first DRS zone or last DRS zone of the lap, whichever way you want to look at it. Up the hill we go then towards turn 1. Iderwood right right on the back then of Jan Fehler. Let's see if Josh Idawu can get a move done here. He's got a great exit out of turn 1, and now it's a long run up towards turn 2 and 3 into that braking zone of 3. There you can see Josh Idawu looking for an inside move there. We're going 3 wide on the entrance in towards turn 3, aren't we? Up the inside goes Idawu. Can he get the power down? Can he try and beat Jan Fehler? Yes, he can. He's ahead. Is he just about? No, you can see there. Fehler just about keeping a front wing in there. Idawu has the inside line, then heading down in towards turn 4. He'll hold on for position and does finally take over P5 away from Fehler. He did not make that look easy, but look at Sabo Konyi looking at the inside line in towards turn 6. You can just see in the left-hand side mirror, Sabo Konyi wants a piece of this action as well. He can't find it at the moment, but Jan Fehler here has got to be careful because drivers are all over the back of him. He can defend as much as he like, but he'll lose ground to those drivers ahead.
I swear Kevin Balash was given the slipstream on the run down towards turn 4 to Jan Fehler just so that he didn't have to worry about Josh Idawu in the 5th position now going on the attack on him. But unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way. Josh muscled his way through into the top 5. Again, started from 9th position, which is really impressive. It's so difficult to overtake here.
Spencer Sabo Konyi riding on board with him. He moves to the right-hand side of Jan Fehler up towards turn 2 into the braking zone of turn 3. And Sabo Konyi will try and take away the apex of the inside of the corner and take away 6th place from Jan Fehler here. Sven Nurler is looking for a move as well, but Jan Fehler's not done with this one though. Will he try a little bit of a switchback? No, he's sticking to the outside of turn 4. Bit of a lock-up though. Misses that apex, of course, with Sabo Konyi taking it. Can't quite find the way out here, but there's the McLaren of Sven Nurler trying to find a way through, and Jan Fehler really slamming that door shut. No way through for Nurler, and Fehler holds on to 7th place.
I don't think Sven Nurler will appreciate that one from Jan Fehler, but that did look a bit dodgy. Hard to see from that angle that we saw, but potentially, I don't know if that was just a mistake from him or if he was specifically trying to muscle him at the exit of turn 4 as they went through turn 5. But yeah, got right up to the edge there. You could see everybody trying to break the slipstream from the car behind them, but of course everybody just ends up moving over to the right-hand side, so nobody ends up benefiting from that or anything like that. Kaupinen, by the way, in 3rd position, just as a reminder to the viewers at home, 3 seconds is his penalty.
Yeah, Idawu looking for a move on Kevin Balash. Meanwhile, you've got Jan Fehler still trying to hold on against Nurler then as we make our way out of turn 3. Onwards we go towards turn 4. Idawu did get that move done then. He's up into 4th place. He's 2.6 behind a podium right now. But remember, Kaupinen still has that penalty. Idawu here, who has qualified, or he qualified all the way, as you said, down in 9th place to recover to 4th right now. Another driver we need to be highlighting as well is Patrick Sipos. 5th on the grid, leading the race after a fantastic start to this race here. Oh no, Sven Nurler, whoa, that was close. Managing to gather up the back end of that car, huge moment. That's one of the biggest we've seen so far. Managing though to gather it up and carry on.
Oh, look at this. Very, very close through the final corner there as well. But yeah, just the back end stepping out in that change of direction as you transition from the left-hander of turn 7 to the right-hander of turn 8. Just lost the back end ever so slightly and did a great job, honestly, managing to catch that one and keep it out of the barrier. Keep it out of the grass and gravel as well, too.
Yeah, and he lost a position there to Thomas Amaro there, but if he loses a position just for that, he'll absolutely commend that one. Ruben Vallejo making life difficult for Patrick Sipos then. Down the inside, he will go in towards turn 4, trying to get a move up the inside. Sipos round the outside, trying to get the power down earlier than the Red Bull driver, and Sipos holds on to the lead of this race. We're going side by side again as Sven Nurler this time gets a good exit out of turn 4. Is Amaro still on his inside? Nope, Sven Nurler now moves up into 8th place, and normal service for him can resume there in 8th place.
Woo, this is frantic stuff that we are seeing. Josh in 4th, will become 3rd as he gets Kaupinen picks up that 3-second time penalty. I have to say is hugely impressive. Just the way that he's managed to do that. He did have a little bit of help with some of the cars that he got by, but a lot of those he managed to do that overtake himself. So Josh into a podium position once we factor in that 3-second time penalty. 2.6 seconds is the gap to Kaupinen up ahead. It'll be interesting to see if he can actually close that down. I'm not sure if he's actually interested in it. And honestly, Kevin Balash is still right behind him. So he might be thinking more about the car behind rather than the Haas ahead.
I'll tell you what, Vallejo is all over the back of Sipos here. He tried to move down the inside into 4, wasn't happening. This has drawn in Kalpanen into this battle as well. And although he's got those 3 seconds worth of time penalties, it's worth him sticking around and seeing if the two ahead battle so much that it allows him to slip through. I mean, we have seen something similar to that so far, albeit down the field with that 3 wide action earlier this week at Zandvoort. That's exactly what can happen. If 2 people are battling so hard for a position, the 3rd person behind can just slip through and say, thank you very much, I'll take those 2 positions off of you.
Yeah, exactly right. And, you know, that's it's a boost to the confidence as well if you can win a race on track. Even if you end up losing it due to penalties, you can say, well, you know, if I hadn't picked up that penalty, that would be a race win. It's relatively easy to just have a little bit cleaner laps. Oh, as Kevin Balash becomes the 3rd person to pick up a 3-second time penalty.
Vallejo up the inside as we make our way in towards turn 3. He's got the inside line of turn 3. Can he get the power down and drive away from Sipos here? He's going to try and do his best. Down the hill we go then towards turn 4, and you can see there Sipos this time will have the DRS as we make our way in towards turn 4. Round the outside he'll try to go. Vallejo will try and shut the doors still. Side by side they run, but Vallejo manages to hold on to the lead for now as we head our way in towards turn 6. That battle for the lead is far from over.
This is fantastic stuff. You love to see it. Kalpanen, again, just kind of sitting in the wings and waiting to see what happens between the two of them. Josh Idawu closing in ever so slightly as well. That gap's come down by a few tenths since this started.
Yeah, and I think Kalpanen will be cursing his luck there, because not only is he stuck behind these 2 drivers who will be battling and costing him time, it means that other drivers behind will start to catch up Kevin Balash as well with a 3-second time penalty, so he will drop down the order slightly towards the end of this race and this checkered flag. 3 laps to go, 2 and a bit if you're picky. Vallejo still leads this race, but it is closely contested between himself and Patrick Sipos as we make our way up towards turn 3 for the 16th time in this race. Vallejo holding on to that position right now. Sipos 2nd place, Kalpanen in 3rd with a penalty, Idawu in 4th place, Kevin Balash in 5th with penalty, Savo Konyi in rounding off the top 6 over the shoulder of Patrick Sipos as we make our way down towards turn 4, getting up close and personal with the rear wing of Ruben Vallejo, but no way through is presented to Patrick Sipos for now. Still a long way to go.
I think at this point it's safe to say we probably are going to have another new winner. Which would be, what is that, 12 races and 12 different winners at this point?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's looking that way. It really is looking like the Vallejo and Patrick Sipos, Ruben Vallejo and Patrick Sipos show. Again, Kalpanen is in, lurking in the background there, but we haven't really seen him get involved in this fight. We haven't seen him go on the offensive on Patrick Sipos just yet. And Josh continues to get closer.
Yeah, and that's going to help him towards the end, especially securing that podium position. All he needs to do is finish within 3 seconds of Kalpanen, and he will have that podium. Meanwhile, Sipos then looking for a move up the inside in towards turn 3. They both leave each other the room now. Exit of turn 3. Who gets the better exit? On the run now, down towards turn 4. Who is it that will get the DRS? It's going to be the Renault there of Patrick Sipos as they try and make room for each other out there. Down towards turn 4, Sipos does take the race lead, but Vallejo braked earlier, trying a little bit of a switchback now, takes back the lead of this race and then instantly defends the inside line. This one could get heated. Don't rule out a possible Idawu taking advantage of a situation here. Kalpanen's right behind as well. He will look to try and get some positions up as well. If this boils over, then this is going to be perfect opportunity for Josh Idawu to take advantage.
This is like the Queen's Gambit while you're pulling lateral Gs. This is absolutely insane to see the dueling, the back and forth between the two of them is fantastic, and it's not over yet. We still got one more lap just under of this.
We've still got 4 kilometres of battling to go. Ruben Vallejo still leads the way though. Patrick Sipos in 2nd place. Kalpanen in 3rd. Idawu in 4th. Savo Konyi in 5th. And Kevin Balash rounding out the top 6. There you can see Kalpanen looking up the inside. Then just in the mirrors of the Renault. Up the inside he will go then. And it's going to be a little bit of a Constantina effect on the exit out of turn 3. Vallejo a wing ahead before Sipos with the DRS will try and get the advantage. Down towards turn 4 he goes. Patrick Sipos takes back the lead of his race as Vallejo tried to move up the inside. Patrick Sipos saw that one coming, and Patrick Sipos right now leading this race. We've got a car off. It's Josh Idawu who's off into the wall from 4th place, potentially 3rd. He's all the way off into the wall. I don't believe it. Patrick Sipos though still leading this way as he makes his way now on towards the final 2 corners. He's only got those 2 to go to take his first race win. One more corner in turn 10 to go. Make sure he doesn't pick up a penalty, and now power towards the line. It's going to be Patrick Sipos Sipos, who wins in Austria. Ruben Vallejo in second place, and it's Bences Sabo-Conyi who grabs that third place off of Kalpanen, who had that penalty, and with that only falls down to fourth place. Jan Fehler in fifth place, Sven Nurle in sixth, Kevin Balash in seventh, Thomas Amaro in eighth, Calvin Klein as a reserve driver finishing inside the points. So too was Norbert Jakob rounding off the top 10. What a race and what a win for Patrick Sipos.
What is happening right now? This is so crazy. I cannot believe it. I don't know what happened to Idawu there. I don't know if he had a little help being spun around there. This is the replay though, and this is Sabo-Conyi who was going on the offensive on Josh. So you can see picking up the DRS, picking up the slipstream. He goes over to the right-hand side. He thought he had a bit of space there, gets pushed onto the grass, and then they come together in the corner, and is that gonna push the Mercedes off the circuit? Yeah, just gets into the grass, and he just spins off. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not a steward on that one. I don't know if anybody is at fault, if that's a racing incident, but that was right on the line between Bences Sabo-Conyi and Josh Idawu, and unfortunately for Josh, that means no points here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Another second race of the series which hasn't gone to plan at all, but who has gone to plan for is Patrick Sipos, who takes his first win of the series. 12 race winners from 12 different races across the series. Ruben Vallejo in second, Bences Sabo-Conyi in third, Atta Kalpanen in fourth place, Jan Fehler in fifth, Sven Nurle in sixth with Kevin Balash in seventh, Thomas Amaro in eighth place, Calvin Klein there in ninth, and also grabs the fastest lap of the race. He's one of the only times in this season, I think the second time, we've actually had a fastest lap of the race bonus point awarded, and it's to Calvin Klein. Norbert Jakob rounding out the top 10. Jake Wills couldn't quite get into the points this time around. He finishes in 11th place. Alessio De Capua fought hard back to try and get back to 12th place with that disconnection earlier on. Josh Idawu, the last of the finishers there, in 13th place. Well, that was a bit of a dramatic race, wasn't it, Justin?
That was absolutely wild. Again, we have had some of the craziest races that we have ever seen in F1 Esports Challengers this week, this year in general, and it's been absolutely fantastic to be able to watch this and commentate on it. It's been wonderful. And again, 12 different race winners. I mean, that doesn't happen. That's not a thing. Why is this happening? I love it.
I'll tell you for our latest race winner, though, in at least the first two races, Patrick Sipos, 8th place in Vietnam, 7th place in China. He came to round 4, he's got a race win. I mean, this is what we were talking about, Justin. It's literally so unpredictable. Not only that, but he started this race in 5th place after that dry tyre wet qualifying session, which was absolutely insane of all of them to go onto the dry tyres. No less than that, got a fantastic start, moved up to 3rd, took the race win after a hard-fought battle with Ruben Vallejo. I mean, that race had a bit of everything, and that was just for the battle for the lead.
Yeah, the Renaults had a great day today on the PC side. Sabo-Conyi and Patrick Sipos in both of the races really proving themselves. And as you said, maybe event 1 not really necessarily having like a standout moment or anything like that. But once again, we're seeing completely different success stories from one event to the other. And that's the one thing that has been consistent, is that nothing is consistent.
That's pretty much summed it up perfectly there, Justin. To describe what's going on in challenges, the only thing that's consistent is how inconsistent. Yeah, that works. I like it. That's the new catchphrase for us, I think. But, I mean, talking about the rest of the drivers there, I mean, Sabo-Conyi, what a day he's had today. He's been in fantastic form. I think that's 2 third places in a row for him.
Yeah, and that's a heck of a result. And there's been times in the past where I've looked at the results and I'm trying to, do the mental math to try and figure out where people are after these races and, roughly who's leading and by how much and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to attempt that this time. I have no idea what's going on. There's just going to be so much shifting around and changing, and there may be some steward stuff that we have to wait for this time. What with that incident right at the end, I don't know. We don't have a word on that just yet in terms of if that's being looked at, or if there's any sort of penalties that are going to be given out, anything like that. So we're still waiting word on that. So be patient with us at home if you don't mind. But I'm still just trying to process everything just happened. As you touched on, that qualifying was unique. Those were unique circumstances that don't come along very often. To have that kind of rain coming down with all the drivers on the slicks in a one-shot qualifying is something that I've personally never experienced, and I've been commentating on F1 game races for years and years and years at this point for the better part of a decade. And I've never seen a qualifying like that before, and I've never seen a race like that before.
No, absolutely. And I have to say, in all that race, we only had one driver who didn't change from their qualifying position. That was Ruben Vallejo. He got second place in this race, no change from his qualifying position. But I tell you what, that is only half the story. He had a great battle for that lead there. And the thing about Austria is it's kind of dependent where you start that final lap of the racing. If you start in that second place, you have a good advantage with some DRS, not only into turn 1, but also into turn 3. And if you make the move late enough, you still have the DRS run down towards turn 4.
Yeah, exactly right. There's back-to-back overtaking locations. You know, it's sort of like Sepang at Malaysia, one of my favorite all-time circuits. You have that overtaking location into the final corner and then again into the first corner, just back-to-back overtaking locations. So sometimes it's actually good to hang back and not attempt the overtake into the first one and just get it done in the second one, just get closer using that first straight. But we saw overtake attempts into turn 3, into turn 4, into turn 5. I mean, they were all over the place.
Everywhere,
with these. Yeah, exactly. The traditional overtaking locations mean nothing to these guys.
I mean, just have a look at the rest of the order. I mean, Jan Fehler, he had a decent day at the office, I think, today. I think his, where did he finish in the end? 5th place in that race. I mean, that's a good haul of points. I mean, that pretty much, that race alone doubles the amount he was heading into round 3. He was on 8 points. He gets himself that lovely 5th place. He's now at least onto 18 points just after that race alone. So a nice points haul for him, at least.
Yeah, double-digit points finish is always going to be beneficial, again, especially when a top 6 is the goal. So essentially, you know, if you really want to make it simple, if you really want to simplify things, you could say every driver is looking for a top 6 in every single race, because it goes to say if you're in the top 6 for every race, you're going to finish the season in the top 6 as well too. So that's sort of the ultimate goal. So a top 5 is, I would tell him to be happy with that. Maybe he's not. Maybe he felt he deserved better. He did start the race in 4th position. He ended up losing 1 space. So I don't know what his thoughts are on the matter, but certainly double-digit points help a lot, especially when it's so close for that 6th place spot. That's what we've seen across all 3 series, is even if there's a biggish gap at the top of the standings, once you get down to 6th or so, it really tightens up.
Oh, it really does. I think we'll switch the conversation back to Ruben Vallejo, because I think he's willing to have an interview with us. I say willing. We'll see if he jumps in for us. Of course, 2nd place in that race, 4:10s it looked like. He finished behind Patrick Sipos there, but gave us a good opportunity. We waited too long. He's gone now.
Yep.
That's all right. Now we took too
much.
long. Yeah, that is the reason why. But yeah, I think 2nd place for him, a good haul of points on the board. Yes, he will have wanted the win, and yes, it was hard battling towards the end. But I think Patrick Sipos there with the full 25 points will be absolutely delighted.
Yep. The 12th different winner, and that's kickstarting his championship as well. He's got 6 more chances to try and reproduce that if he can, and I imagine he's going to.
I think Ruben's back. He's changed his mind. He's had a change of heart. I think he's with us now. Ruben, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ruben, it's great to have you on board. Let's talk about the Austrian Grand Prix. I mean, 2nd place for you, but that really doesn't sum it up enough. I mean, talk to us about that battle with Patrick Sipos. That looked intense.
Yeah, it was hard, to be honest, but yeah, I mean, we both know that Ate has penalty, so the win was between Patrick and myself. So yeah, it was really hard. I overtake him too soon because he hasn't got ERS in the last few laps, so I had 70% of ERS. So yeah, I could have win, but yeah, I mean, 7 points here. It's too much gap between top 6 and be out of the Challenger series. So yeah, I'm still happy, but it feels bad, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you've scored 18 points in that race alone. I mean, you started this series with 15 points in 6th place. I mean, that must be a good thing to have on your side, because that does push you up the standings quite a bit now.
Yeah, I think I have counted already how many positions I gained. I think 1 or 2 maybe, because Nico didn't score. And Kevin, I think I overtake him, but Patrick overtaking me already. So yeah, it's gonna be very close, the battle between the top 6, top 7, top 8 championship standings. So yeah, we need to keep working, because there are 6 races remaining. So yeah.
Yeah, 6 races remaining, and obviously we have to wait a whole month before we can go racing again, and that's going to be at Silverstone and at Spa. Are you looking forward to those tracks?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, Silverstone is not of my best tracks, but I think Spa can get a very good result. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, the gaps between all the drivers are very close. So yeah, it's 1/3 or 2/10 can be between P3 and P8. So yeah, it's too much gap, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you must be happy with that. I mean, Justin, I don't know if you have a question for Pablo here. I've taken all the questions away from you. I've been really sorry about that.
I'll ask the obvious question. How are you feeling about Silverstone and Spa? Are those tracks you go well at?
I think Silverstone I go better than Spa, but to be honest with you, there are tracks that I don't love very much. So yeah, it sounds rare because Spa and Silverstone, all the people loves it, but myself not. So.
Gotcha.
Well, Pablo, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Go ahead, celebrate that podium, and hopefully we will see you again next month. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Ruben.
And I think we do have one other driver in the waiting to commentary box. They're all piling in now. I think we have Jake Wills with us. Jake, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, Jake. You're very quiet on your end. Hopefully we can get that audio up on you. But anyway, Jake, I mean, I'll start with the elephant in the room. It's been a tough first 4 races for you, but on reflection, how are you feeling?
Not so good. I feel like I'm just fighting a losing battle at the moment. Both races where I could potentially get points, I end up getting it held up in the pits and then losing DRS. And then once you lose DRS, that's pretty much game over, to be honest. It's near impossible to catch up, and I didn't have enough ERS to catch back up to the guys anyway. Like, as soon as I came out the pits, I had like 30-40%, so I had no chance of like catching up back to them. And then it was just the softs caught me, and then I was sort of game over. It was unlucky I qualified P10 because I'd rather start on the mediums because it was a lot quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk about that qualifying session. It's something I didn't actually ask Ruben, but was it your choice to go on slicks as everybody else in that wet qualifying session? That looked a bit insane, to be honest.
No, I thought it was bugged. I thought I was the only. I saw it as like it showed heavy rain on like the forecast, and I seen I had slicks, and I thought I was bugged. I was like, oh, not my luck again. I thought I was the only one on slicks, so luckily I wasn't. But I took it so cautious into the first corner, so I had no idea what the grip was going to be like. It was scary.
I mean, challengers will throw everything at you, let alone a wet track on slick tyres. I mean, that's just the biggest one we've seen so far. But obviously, on reflection then, do you feel like you know where you can improve and where you're going for the next 6 races?
Yeah, it's quali. It's not my race pace. Like, for example, in Zandvoort, like I was setting like 7.8, 7.9s, PB 7.7, and in the real thing, I like spun twice, and then I set like an 8.2, which is like the worst I've done pretty much. It's just like, I think it's a nerve thing is the main problem for me. It's what if I have a good quali, I'll have a good race, but so far I've not had a good quali. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and I'll hand over the mic to Justin because I know he's got a question or two up his sleeve. He always does.
Well, I'm gonna ask the same thing again. I mean, how are you feeling about Silverstone and Spa? Because we just talked to Ruben, and he said that he's not a big fan of those tracks, as most people are. But how are you feeling going into those?
Me being British, I like Silverstone. I'm quite good at that track, so I'm happy that we got that one. But Spa is like it's a weak point for me. I don't know why. It just is, and it's a one shot. So
how do you approach that then? Do you put more practice in for Spa and try to level them out, or do you go for where you're strong at Silverstone and just really try to go for maximum points there?
I'll do what I did for this event. I'll focus more on the first race because like I'm confident in Britain. I feel like I get most points in Britain compared to Spa. And Spa, because it's a one shot, it doesn't really matter how much practice you can do. On the night, you get nervous and you can end up just invalidating. So I feel like it's more important for me to focus on Britain, but I will focus on Spa, obviously, because we've got like a whole month. So I will put a lot of time into it. But yeah, definitely Britain more so, I'd say. Definitely.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully that practice will come eventually when we head to Silverstone and Spa next month. But good luck to you, and we'll see you next month.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jake.
And that was Pablo Hoglar first, and then, of course, Jake Wills, who unfortunately hasn't scored a point. But he seemed, still pretty honest and on it, to be honest with you. He still knows what he needs to do. He knows what to do for the next 6 races at least.
Yeah, the good news is that it's a mental thing and not like a pace thing, or so, he's not just, oh, I'm half a second off the pace of everybody else. No, it's just about putting in the performance on the day, and that is something that I can definitely relate to. I don't know if anybody else watching at home has attempted league racing or anything like that, but when those nerves start going and you just crumble, and I totally feel for him because I have been there myself. But it's good for him to experience this kind of stuff because that's what's going to help to solve that. The only thing that's going to make him better at handling the nerves is being put under more pressure and having more nerves and all that kind of stuff. So this is exactly where he needs to be, and I wish him the best of luck. It sounds like, though, Silverstone might be a great opportunity for him. Home track, feeling good, has good pace, and as he kind of mentioned, it's the first race of the day when they do it next month, and hopefully that can give him that confidence and momentum that he needs to perform well at Spa, where he's maybe doesn't have that confidence going into it. If he can pick up a top 5 or dare I say a podium or something at Silverstone, that may end up helping him a lot in Belgium.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I did want to say we've actually had a little bit of a message come through from Patrick Sipos not so long ago that he was celebrating so hard that he accidentally broke his headphones. So I don't know if we're going to actually hear from him at all, but we'll see if we can have at least a text from him just to read out over the stream. But I mean, that's the level I want to be at. You're celebrating so hard that you break something that's on your head. That's quite impressive, I've got to say.
That's right. So if there's any audio companies out there looking to
Nice.
to have a sponsorship with any of the upcoming drivers, there's your opportunity. We've got a man in need of a headset.
We do indeed. I mean, to be honest with you, it's a headset worthy of a win there, for sure, for sure. But that just shows you the amount of emotion that goes into these races. They put so much work in. It's a month worth of work, more than that actually, because they're always trying to make sure that they're staying on top. They're always filling in with races in between just to make sure they're topped up. That's the level of emotion that we're talking about here in Challengers, and it's only round 4 as well. We've still got 6 more to go. It's going to get more and more tense as we go through.
Yeah, and it's good. It's so good to get a win, before the halfway point of the season as well. I imagine Patrick is thrilled about that. I genuinely cannot imagine the emotions that are going through him after winning a race like that at this level. Yeah, it's probably fantastic. I mean, I've experienced what it's like to have my favorite F1 driver win a race now, so I can maybe equate that to when Sergio won the Sakir Grand Prix. But that's the closest thing for me that I could think of.
I'm sure we've all seen that video. You go absolutely mental. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Just to bring it back to the drivers, I mean, we had Atte Kauppinen. I mean, didn't have the greatest race 1 today, or race 3 if you want to have it that way, of the entire series. But race 4, yes, he had that 3-second time penalty, but with the incident that happened behind him, it was almost a saving grace because he only lost 1 position in the end.
Yeah, exactly right. Still 12 championship points for CRG Atte. So, yeah, he's definitely got to be happy about that, especially with how close the field has been for so many of these races. We've seen how expensive a 3-second time penalty can be in terms of championship points. I think it was 10 championship points was the cost of a 3-second time penalty yesterday. So to miss out on only 3 is actually quite a blessing.
Oh, absolutely, and he will be seeing that that could be a defining moment as well. The fact that he's only lost 3 points in that race due to a penalty, so that could be a turning fact later on down the line. I mean, 2 out of the 3 reserve drivers as well scored points. I mean, we had Calvin Klein and we had Norbert Jakob who went for that alternate strategy, and they finished in the points. So that is a name on the board. That their names are going to be with points for the rest of the series. I mean, that's fantastic for them.
Yeah, and in fact, 3 championship points for Calvin because, of course, picking up that fastest lap. So the 2 rookies combined picking up 4 championship points there in Austria, which we saw in the Netherlands. It was a 0. It was a naught for all 3 of them. But yeah, turning that around and in a hectic race, doing good, performing well, and just keeping things on the track, keeping their wits about them and all that kind of stuff. And it paid dividends for them in the end. Again, we don't know their future in the championship. Again, they were filling in for other drivers, but who knows what's going to happen in the future. They may have an opportunity, and it's good to have some points on the board. Again, confidence. It's a word that we've mentioned a lot over the season, over the course of the years with F1 Esports Challengers, but it means a lot. It it equals pace, as silly as that sounds, but confidence means speed.
It does indeed, and I believe we have what we've all been waiting for. The results coming your way for both round 3 and 4 of the Xbox F1 Esports Series Challengers. So we'll start, of course, with round number 3 earlier on tonight at the Netherlands. It was Josh Idawu grabbing his first race win of the series, also his first podium of the series, 25 points for his name. De Capua second, Savo Konyi rounding up the top 3. It's Matteo, Sipos, Vallejo, Balash, Fela, Hoglar and Amaro rounding off the top 10, as you can see there. Just looking through the rest of the order to finish off the results for the Dutch Grand Prix here in F1 Esports Challengers. We will bring that to you momentarily, and here they are. Kalpanen finishing outside of that top 10, as you remember. Sven Nurle in 12th, Calvin Klein in 13th place, Norbert Jakob in 14th, Ika Baena in 15th, and Jake Wills finishing in 16th place. Obviously, the bottom 2 there did not finish the race in the Netherlands. Bringing you now on to Austria, Patrick Sipos is the 12th different winner across the entire Challengers. Vallejo in 2nd place and Savo Konyi rounding out the top 3. Atta Kalpanen in 4th place, Jan Fela in 5th, Sven Nurle in 6th, Kevin Balash in 7th, Thomas Amaro in 8th, Calvin Klein in 9th, and Norbert Jakob rounding out that top 10. Good performances from our reserve drivers. Jake Wills just missing out on the points there. De Capua suffering with connection issues, finishing outside of the points. Josh Idawu suffering with that collision at the end, or a moment at turn 4, no doubt. We'll be looking at the stewards. Ika Baena, Nicolas Matteo and Pablo Hoglar not making it to the checkered flag and therefore not completing the race. And that can only mean one thing. We get you to the PC results. I just realised that I've been saying Xbox the whole time. I'm still in yesterday. We're today. This is PC, Kieran. Get it together. Alessio De Capua still leading the way, though, after that performance is 53 points ahead as he tries to get his way up the top of the table. Patrick Sipos in 2nd place, Atta Kalpanen in 3rd, Ruben Vallejo in 4th place. Not too much difference in points as we look our way down the order. Josh Idawu climbing into the top 6, Spencer Savo Konyi really rising into the top 6 after 2 back-to-back podiums. Matteo in 7th place, Kevin Balash in 8th, Sven Jörner in 9th, and Jan Fela rounding out the top 10. Just to take you through the rest of the challengers and where they stand: Sven Nurle in 11th place, Thomas Amaro in 12th, Jeffrey Rietveld in 13th, Calvin Klein in 14th place, Pablo Hoglar 15th, and Norbert Jakob 16th place, the last of the point scorers. Well, I have to say it's been a very, very eventful week. 3 wide overtakes, battles for the lead, spinners off, and of course more to come next month. You can join us then for the British Grand Prix and the Spa, a Belgian Grand Prix I should say, next month. I think it's the 23rd, the 24th and the 25th of February. We will be back, Justin and I, to bring you through that one. And of course, don't forget, on Sunday, the virtual GP at 1800 Greenwich Mean Time on Sky Sports F1, Twitch and YouTube. So don't forget to tune into that as well. There's some fantastic lineups being announced here, and they're still not through with announcing the lineup. So go ahead, watch it on Sunday and just watch the absolute fantastic action unfold. From myself and Justin, that's bringing it to an end for challenges for event number 2. Event number 3 brings us to 2 very, very classic tracks, and we hope to see you there for them. From myself, Kieran McGinley, and from Justin Sutton alongside, it's been a pleasure bringing you these races over the last few days. In the meantime, please take care of yourselves, and we will see you very soon. Good night.